Tom Quee and Sam Wiles present Down in the Hole, a Tom Waits podcast which explores and critiques, episode by episode, every album of the American artist. To find out more information about the show and the man himself, visit TomWaitsPodcast.wordpress.com. Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Down in the Hole, a Tom Waits podcast. This is episode 8. We'll be tackling One from the Heart, both the album and the film as well in our review. But of course, it's not just me. It's not just Tom Quee. As ever, I'm joined by a fellow Waits fanatic, my good friend Sam. Sam, how are you, mate?
Good morning, Tom. Episode 8. It's going really well now, isn't it? We're really getting to into the swing of things now. This is almost second nature. This is a really important episode as well. I mean, if you're following the biography of Tom as we've been going through this is the threshold moment, really. This is the final album he releases, even though kind of Heart Attack and Vine was kind of recorded after this was released. After, if you know what I mean, kind of like a sort of Abbey Road. It was on a sabbatical, wasn't it? He was just taking some time off, and he churned it out.
And after this album, we go full force into the Island years, into the Swordfish, Rain Dogs years. So this is really the kind of farewell to the Tom that we've spent so much time with over these past 8 episodes. And it's been a wonderful journey. So before we dig into that, I just want to give a few shout-outs, basically, both to the podcast and to other podcasts as well. So, as you know, you can always get in contact with us. You can get in contact with us at the blog, TomWaitsPodcast.wordpress.com. I must admit that when we first started the series, the blog was mostly used to just host episodes. We've been a little lazy with it, to be honest with you, but we've really been full throttle with it. Basically, our plan is to have a show week. So, for instance, this week will be a show week when the episode is released, and that goes in the blog. And because it's a fortnightly podcast, any week that doesn't have an episode with it, we're going to put like a little article on there, a little kind of maybe like a BuzzFeedy list, maybe more of like a sort of heart to heart, maybe a deep analysis of a song. But so far, reaction's been really good. And our latest article is written by our very own Sam.
Woo!
And it's got a great title. It's the most what the fuck Tom Waits songs.
And there are many.
There are many. I mean, like, as the comments on the various social media forums that we've put them on have led us to believe, there is many songs we've left out. I think Common Issue Spate was one of the ones that I personally was a little bit, okay, why isn't this on here? This is like, the defining what the fuck song. But that's the beauty of Tom, and that's the beauty
It's
of the
also
podcast.
Nice for us to just talk about songs that we can't talk about on the podcast yet as well.
Yeah, that's so true. So, TomWaitsPodcast.wordpress.com. I've got all the episodes on there. I've also got some great articles. I've got an article about Tom Waits and Crows. All the mention of Crows, Tom Waits, we said before. We've also got his best guitar moments. We've got lots of exciting stuff coming up for you on the blog, so it's definitely worth checking that out. You can also get in contact with us on Gmail. That's TomWaitsPodcast@gmail.com. And I'm really happy to say that two people that I've reached out to, two people that I've discovered in the kind of niche Waits kind of critical appreciation, kind of just fandom, have got back to me, and I'd love to give them a little promo. And the first one I'd like to give a promo to is Maurice. Maurice runs a really good podcast that I've recently just discovered called Love That Album. So search Love That Album on iTunes. He also has a blog as well. So if you Google Love That Album podcast, you'll definitely find it. And basically, Maurice is an Australian, and every episode is about an hour long. There's some can be like up to 3 hours long, where it's him interrogating what's a great album basically. And amongst that mass, there are several Tom Waits reviews as well. He's got a 3-hour episode reviewing the kind of two sides of Tom, essentially the Heart of Saturday Night Tom, and then going into the Rain Dogs Tom. He also, unbelievably, has an interview with Barney Hoskins, who we just
the man himself,
exactly the just Mr. H. That's all I can refer to him for. I think genius writer, genius journalist, low side of the road.
I think we might actually like him more than Jim Hugart at this point now. It's a fine line. But so Maurice does a brilliant interview with Barney, and I got in contact with Maurice, and Maurice is very, very friendly, and said that he's going to listen to the podcast. So thank you so much for that, Maurice, as well. So love that album, both for more Tom Waits criticism and just for general, like the list of albums Joe Jackson, who's someone that I mentioned last week, weirdly, in reference to Downtown off Heart Attack and Vine. He reviews some Joe Jackson albums, and so it's niche, is what I'm trying to say. Like if you've always wished to be an hour-long episode about an album, but you just know that someone's not going to cover Drive-By Truckers or Sun Volt, or you know what I mean? They're not going to cover that. Maybe it'll be there, and he's still doing the episode, so it's definitely worth subscribing. The other person that I want to big up is someone that me and Sam were kind of blown away by earlier this week. This guy is absolutely phenomenal. We can't plug him enough. We really can't.
No, truly brilliant. This is a guy called Buddy Peace. From what I gather, he's a kind of DJ, composer, general kind of music writer, and he's brought out a version of 8-bit renditions of Tom Waits songs. And if you aren't familiar with 8-bit music, just kind of think of early Nintendo games, that kind of glitchy, kind of...
The Mario theme is the key one, isn't it?
Really melodically satisfying, almost kind of juvenile, but in a really gratifying rather than kind of demeaning sense. And he's brought out an album called Donkey Kong Variations, which is a brilliant title. Absolutely brilliant. And it's his version of Mule Variations. And he's also done a few other Tom Waits songs as well. But his main sort of piece at the moment is Donkey Kong Variations. So search out Buddy Piece, search out 8-Bit Tom Waits. You'll definitely come across it on YouTube. We've already shared it on the Twitter, but we'll share it again because it's definitely worth checking out. His rendition, it's kind of like some of the songs where it's like Low Side of the Road or, you know, Filipino Brock Spring Hog. You can kind of imagine those because they do have that sort of gutter thump that kind of 8-bit is really good at bringing out the niches for. But songs that really surprised me on there were songs like Picture in a Frame or Take It With Me. The more somber moments on Mule Variations, he just knocks it out the park, really. Like, they really are quite moving. It's when you're doing 8-bit music, you're distilling the kind of melodic properties to their purest elements. And obviously with Tom, the craft is exceptional. So they work so well in the 8-bit context. So
I'm just looking forward for an 8-bit Nintendo Tom Waits game. I don't know what the objectives would be, but it would have a great soundtrack.
Maybe there'd be no objectives, and that it would be the most Tom Waits game ever. It'd just be kind of to enjoy the ride. But so there's a blog for all the articles. Also, please get in contact with us. Please check out Buddy Piece's 8-Bit Music and also Maurice's podcast. That's Love That Album. And finally, you can always get in contact with us at the Twitter. That's at TomWaitsPodcast. I gotta say, I love using the Twitter. I love getting in contact with fans. Share a lot of Tom Waits stuff on there. Recently shared a picture of Tom Waits as a child. Did you see that? Where
it looks so like him.
It does. It's unmistakable. It's absolutely unmistakable. You would never miss him.
You can't miss that jawline, can you?
No, you can't. You can't miss that Ron Perlman looking child, like just there.
Oh.
And on the Twitter, you know,
Ron Perlman.
Seriously. At Tom Waits Podcast, who would play Tom Waits in the film of his life? If you're telling me it's not Ron Perlman from the early 90s when he was a little bit younger, then you're wrong, because there is no one else. He would have been perfect for the role. He has the same chisel, he has the same jaw, etc. But so yeah, at Tom Waits Podcast. And what we like to do on there is not just to big up the podcast, not just share funny images, but we also just want to kind of ask people questions and see what people think of Tom Waits. So one of the questions that I just, I was waiting to see some improv in Oxford yesterday, and I was just on my own, so I was just kind of like killing time. And I just thought to myself, like, I just asked, sum up Tom Waits in 3 words. And quite a lot of our fans got back to us, so I'm just going to read those out before we dig into the One from the Heart review. Bob Linger said Tom Waits to him is the Black Rider. Alan said haunted beatnik troubadour. Hakon, I apologise if I don't say it right. Tom Waits in 3 words for him is battered old suitcase, which is quite nice.
Oh, that's from Waltzing Matilda.
Yeah. Tom Trowberts, yeah. And Louisa just says changed my life, which is very nice as well. Jeffrey, best musician alive. And then we have Seth with bluesy jazz rebel.
Ooh.
And closing us up, this is at Writer Technical, so there's no actual name here. This is probably my favourite one. He's a boozy carnival jazzmeister, which I think is spot on, and especially for One from the Heart.
I think that might have been Tom Waits himself, you know.
Yeah. I mean, that is spot on. So today is going to be a little different in terms of the podcast. Obviously, normally we'll just do an album song by song review and then do our Real Gone segment where we dig into one of Tom Waits' films or whatever. Yeah. But because One from the Heart is a film of its own accord, and then Tom did the soundtrack to it, we're going to try and sort of review them side by side. Basically, the songs are going to take precedent. We're going to review the songs in order, and then we'll tell you where the songs take place. If indeed they do, some of these songs aren't even on the film, and some are barely on the film. You know, if you hadn't listened to the album closely like we had and knew what to listen for, you would definitely miss those tracks if you just listened to the album in the background. So we're going to try and go for that. But because this is such a huge thing, I mean, this is a Francis Ford Coppola film. You know, it's not just this little minor thing that Tom's done a soundtrack for. This is the film that Coppola made after Apocalypse Now. You know, this is a film that Coppola made when Coppola in the 70s was arguably the greatest decade for a director ever.
Yes.
Godfather, The Conversation, Godfather 2, and then Apocalypse Now. It's just like I know the conversation's maybe a bit more obscure, and I have to say that there is a recent German film that's probably better than The Conversation. It's very similar. The Lives of Others.
That's a very good film. Yeah,
amazing film. It's always compared to The Conversation, so they're kind of one's they're both kind of one's obviously a German one, one's American based, but so this is such a huge occasion that we really want to pay attention not only to the music but to the construction of the film, to the behind the scenes, to the wrangling, because it is an absolutely fascinating story. And I think where we'll start the story is Tom in New York. So this is basically after Blue Valentine.
Yeah.
Prior to Heart Attack and Vine. And Tom had been living in New York for 5 or 6 months, and he was there for some sort of creative reinvention, as is often with Tom. It's a common theme here. And he said that himself, quote, "I moved to New York for about 5 to 6 months, wanting to challenge myself in an entirely new environment." And the thing was, he had kind of broken with Bones Howe in this situation as well. He had Bones Howe, who had been his kind of valiant, stalwart producer that he'd been making music with for almost a decade now. He said that at first he didn't want to be with Bones, but as we see with Tom commonly, he's always coming back to Bones. He always needs that security there. So he had said to Stephen Peoples, about the New York situation, about Bones, that he decided that the change won out over other considerations. He decided that the change was something that had to take place inside of me and my own musical growth. I wanted to take some dangerous chances, but I felt that Bones could still best accommodate me. So we see with Tom this warring dialectic between the need to express oneself, the need to break new ground, and the need to feel comfortable within something. So Tom is out there in New York, trying to make music. It's quite telling, really, that Tom would record Rain Dogs in New York as well. Yeah. So this album is a definitely fertile spring for him in terms of inspiration. But so basically Tom decides to go back, but it was slightly disingenuous. He didn't decide to go back because he just kind of like thought, oh fuck it, I'll go back to LA and try this new thing. He actually got a call in the middle of the night. It was a call from Francis Ford Coppola.
What a phone call.
Yeah, what a phone call, yeah. He basically said, quote, "I got a call in the middle of the night and went over. It was like having an audience with the Pope. I used to think directors were genies with wings, So Coppola, as we said at the time, was looking for a follow-up project to Apocalypse Now. And in this new film, he was making a film set exclusively in Las Vegas. Coppola wanted this film to be built around music, so he asked his son to recommend contemporary singer-songwriters who wrote in the Tim Pally Alley way. When Giancarlo Coppola played his father Tom Waits' album, the director apparently flipped. And Sam, what was the song that he reacted to most?
Well, I now refer to this song as the Bette Midler incident, but Coppola, unfortunately for this whole album, took a shining to I Never Talk to Strangers.
I Never Talk to Strangers, which has been a divisive song on this podcast. I defended it in our Foreign Affairs episode. Listen back to that, number 5. I have to say that I quite enjoy it. It's a ragtag of a song with where Tom and Bette sing out of tune quite constantly, and it's got this weird kind of drifty piano, and it's got a lot of ad-libs that you can barely hear that are very lame if you could hear them right. But this song gets played, and you can definitely see the DNA of Never Talk to Strangers throughout One from the Heart. It's it's got several shades of that, but
it's just so typical of Tom, because he even got his first recording gig after a producer heard Grapefruit Moon, another stinker. Yes. So it just seems that Tom never gets gigs based on his best work, sadly.
No, that is true. Apparently, what Waits would later say about Coppola, apparently he liked the relationship between the singers. He liked the conversation between a guy and a girl in a bar. That was the impetus for him contacting me and asking me if I was interested in writing music for his film. So from there, we have Tom on board with One from the Heart.
Well, it's actually it's interesting that we should mention Bette Midler, because Coppola originally did want Midler to kind of be the singer with him, and basically she had conflicts with another film. And it's oddly enough, it's actually Kathleen who was to bring on the singer who would accompany Tom on this album.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. And I get a subtle feeling of, Kathleen, she's a new relationship. She doesn't want Tom's old girlfriend around. So she brings on Crystal Gale. Now, are you aware of Crystal Gale before listening to this album?
Honestly, the only way I knew her was from this album.
Yes.
I had no recollection of her at all.
Have you ever listened to any of her songs?
No, I've got a little bio of her briefly.
Okay.
She because I just did a bit of research because I didn't really know her. She's an award-winning American country music singer. So Crystal Gale, we should say, is Tom's foil throughout the album. She features prominently as well in this album. She sings a lot of the songs solo. She also sings with Tom as well.
Yeah.
And I really don't like her voice. But
really? Okay.
Well, so she was. Before this, before One from the Heart, she was best known for a 1977 country pop crossover hit song, "Don't Make My Brown Eyes Blue." I never quite heard of that. She accumulated 20 number one country hits during the 70s and 80s, so she was a huge deal. 6 albums certified gold as well. She was the first female artist in country music history to reach platinum sales with her 1977 album We Must Believe in Magic. She was also apparently famous for her nearly floor-length hair. But yeah, I find her voice very... It feels like taffy. It pulls and chews. She languishes on notes far too long.
But taffy's also sweet.
Taffy's too sweet. She's like saltwater taffy. She's she's just not very satisfying as a singer. She doesn't really give anything to me. The same, like Tom can warm your belly like whiskey with the grit of his tones. Crystal Gale is so sanitized. She's so just like Kathleen was probably putting someone in a little bit innocuous there to kind of, not necessarily Tom would ever stray or anything like that, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
you kind of wish that the duet was a female Tom Waits with him, but it's just kind of... She's
someone on his level.
She's the straight woman in that sense.
Well, Hoskins, the man Hoskins, writes that her voice was kind of pretty, if somewhat neutral.
Yes.
And then he goes on to say it perfectly complemented Waits' grainier tones, which I totally... I wouldn't say I disagree with it, but to say... To use the word perfectly is very strong, and this album can be scattershot at best during some of the duets. But like as you said with "I Never Talk to Strangers," there are those moments where it does come together.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a few songs on here where they act, well with each other, but mostly it's slightly obsolete.
The thing is, like, to do a duet like this whole concept of like them, like they are the off-screen lovers that complement Hank and Franny, our main characters.
Yeah.
Yet, I think Tom and Gail's relationship is almost as unbelievable as Hank and Franny's. Like, I couldn't imagine Gail and Tom ever really being together. They don't seem like the same kind of people. And one of the things like I really get from this album is that I feel Gail really is doing nothing more than just taking instruction from Waits and Coppola, and she is literally just an instrument. And I feel like she lacks any sort of pizzazz or spontaneity that I think Tom definitely has.
Yeah. She is just a pawn, as you say, because it's Tom's music on Francis's film. Like, it's kind of, she has no creative leeway here. But I think what's important to consider with the relationship between Tom and Crystal on this album, there's a lot of good behind the scenes material on YouTube, by the way, if you're further interested in this. Lots of great footage of Tom at the piano, Tom with Francis Ford Coppola in a sunlit garden speaking with Bones Howe. Great footage, really, really interesting. And one of the things Tom says when interviewed about the music that really stuck with me, he describes himself and Crystal Gale as like Zeus and Hera, like looking down on the action as the gods. So, I mean, it's important to note as well that Tom Waits is not in this film. He has a quick cameo, but it's purely musical. He's purely just written all the songs here, and obviously you hear his voice several times as well. But they are looking down on the action. There's a sense that they aren't really players in this game, and maybe even Tom and Crystal aren't really together. They're just the male-female voice that are kind of complementing what's going on screen. And, the album comes at an interesting point, really, for Tom, because we've seen in a lot of the albums prior, especially in Blue Valentine and then in Heart Attack and Vine, you see shades of what Tom is going to become. Yeah. You see the wild scream. You see the odd instrumentation. You see the employment of sounds that you never thought you would have heard in someone who released Heart Attack, someone who released The Heart of Saturday Night or Closing Time. You see a movement towards the abstract. So there's a split here. On one side, who wouldn't want to be called up by Francis Ford Coppola, especially at this time? He would have been absolutely red hot. This would have been the greatest opportunity for any singer-songwriter. I'm sure no one would have turned this down. Yeah. You know what I mean? No, I'm sure Elton John wouldn't have turned this down. I'm sure any of the huge songwriters from that era, I'm sure they would have leapt to the chance to work with Coppola after creating such incredible American cinema. But then this is the lounge music that he's been trying to avoid. This is the schmaltziness.
It's a real regression, isn't it?
It's completely regression, and it's a very interesting dichotomy that Tom is able to release One from the Heart and then release Swordfish like a year later. It's an incredible expansive imagination within the man, but there is this divide, and you do feel that in the music as well, because most of the songs are this kind of cocktail jazzy kind of boyfriend girlfriend kind of lovey neon thing, but then there are moments of real abstract terror in here that's really interesting, that the Waits got that through, you know what I mean, that through the critical eyes of Coppola, and there's several other people, I've got their names in my notes, who were Coppola's kind of right-hand men who helped to kind of cue the sound and build the sets and stuff. There's still some Tom in here, which is good. I think this is still a Tom Waits album, even if it's not quite as pure as earlier or later work.
Yeah, because Coppola by this point, like, he's made like 4 really overly dark, seriously violent films, and like I totally get that he wants to make something lighter, but like that's not what Tom is really. Like, he does like get down in the dirt a lot more on every other album, and like we're gonna get into it later, but like just be aware that a lot of this is gonna be quite twee.
Yeah, a lot of these songs, if they weren't, if they didn't have the excuse of being a soundtrack to an over-bloated Coppola kind of disaster, then you probably wouldn't give them as much leeway. But because they're kind of in this mire of just no direction in this film, you know what I mean? There's a real lack of characterization. You can forgive a lot of the stuff. And there was a lot of problems, even before Tom got on board. You know, it almost never got off the ground because Herb Cohen, Tom's manager, apparently refused to yield the publishing rights to Coppola.
Okay.
Fortunately, Bones Howe, who Coppola had hired to oversee the music, intervened to work out a compromise, saying, quote, "One of the things that Francis wanted to do was to own all the music in the film. I had a meeting with Francis and told him that I had a conflict of interest. He said, well, think of someone else to do the music," and which is very Coppola. Like, we hear that. There's another good quote by Barney Hoskins where apparently Tom had brought the quite good song from One for the Night, Candy Apple Red. Apparently he'd brought that to Coppola, and Coppola hadn't liked it and just said, write a new one. And Tom's like, this is perfect. Like, you know what I mean? You can't just tell someone to write a new song.
Yeah,
like, you know, it's
like
very personal.
I think there's a lot of Tom trying to decipher what Coppola wants, because it's clear from watching the movie that even Coppola doesn't know what Coppola wants.
No.
And like, he just said he would get irritated by this one more attitude and the constant changes to the music. Like, but initially, I think it's important just to point out that normally with a film you do most of your shooting, and then you start editing and doing pickups and stuff like that, and then you'll work on the score. This film completely does a 180 on that.
Yeah.
And basically Tom was just invited to Zoetrope Studios to basically just like be a resident and work on the music mostly before and during production. And a lot of the set designers and cinematographers would base the visuals of the movie on this music, which on paper sounds fantastic, basing a movie on the already very visual cinematic music of Tom Waits. And it was just kind of a bit too freeform and chaotic, really. Like Tom says, he just kept saying, "What the hell is going on here?" Like, not cautiously, but humorously. Like he pretty much quit drinking by this point. Like, obviously, we're going to get onto how this is when he meets Kathleen. Kathleen Brennan was a script supervisor.
Yes, she was. Yeah.
On the movie. And you know, she will start to sober him up. Like, Tom would come in literally every day at noon, claiming that I put on a suit and tie, I shaved, I read the paper, and I went to work with millions of other Americans. It was good for me, disciplined me. It was like working in an office. Now, yes. I'm not sure if that last bit is good to hear from Tom Waits.
No, but I think this is what he's always wanted. I mean, when he first started, he wanted to be kind of a Tin Pan Alley songwriter for hire, didn't he? That was kind of the romantic image that he really liked. And apparently, this is just a comment on one of our YouTube videos, so I'm kind of taking this, I wouldn't take this as verbatim, but it sounds right enough. Supposedly, After Closing Time was a kind of commercial failure. Bones Howe had to, or it might have been Herb Cohen, but one of the two, basically Tom's management, had to convince his label that he was still worth it, and they just wanted him as a songwriter to work for them and write for other people. So this is kind of pulling into that, you know, Tom's in his panel office of his sofa, and there's a lot of good footage actually on YouTube again of Tom working at his piano, and you can really imagine him clinking out these songs and, you know, putting that stuff together. And Tom obviously wasn't working alone as well. He was working with Bones Howe and Richard Alcivar, who's been on many albums, and he was also working with someone called Richard Beggs, who was a sound sculptor that had been working with Coppola for over a decade. Apparently Beggs would sit in the room with Coppola and a clock, around the clock, with a catalogue of musical clues. Waits would say, quote, he was the one most responsible for getting all the music to mesh with the film. And that meshing is volatile, isn't it? If you were to listen to this album and you'd be like, oh, I'm really looking forward to the scene when, the Beg Your Pardon is given its big number, or I'm really looking to the moment when the instrumental interlude, I can't wait to see what they do with this wild piece of music. Oh, it's used for 2 seconds, yes. Like, you know, a note or two. Like sometimes songs are given free leeway. Sometimes they're
used twice, 3 times.
Yeah, or sometimes they're chipped to within, nothing of their thing, really. It's really annoying, but...
Would you call this film a musical?
It's difficult because there's one moment when a character sings to the camera.
I'm going to get onto that because that annoys me to no end.
Yeah. But I think just a bit more background to the film as well. The film's quite famous for basically leading to Coppola to declare bankruptcy. It was originally intended as the opposite of his big bloated masterpieces, like Apocalypse Now. Which, I mean, the horror of Apocalypse Now's production is incredible, isn't it? Like the stories of kind of what they had to go through and how long they were out there filming. Were they out there for like 18 months or something? It was
the documentary implies that production was like over 3 years. And there were storms, and it just basically destroyed it. So Coppola buys a production company called Omnizoetrope. Mm-hmm. He purchased it from the Hollywood General Studios for somewhere between the literature's quite divided on this, but between $5.6 and $6.7 million. And this was a studio that was meant to be both made for sense and money. Mm-hmm. Like he now possessed a 10.5-acre lot, 9 sound stages, and 34 editing rooms. Jeez. And he opened it in February 1980. He quite adorably, he gave a lot of the street names direct oral references. So we had like Akira Kurosawa Avenue and Sergei Eisenstein Park.
That's nice. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's cute.
And he basically like he just didn't want to be out there again. Like the experience of like on location shooting pretty much scarred him for life. And he would go to call this studio his magical illusion device. Mm-hmm. Gene Kelly was also hired as a production consultant. There's quite a few photos where he's just on set, like talking to the choreographers and stuff. But once he'd finally seen the film, Gene Kelly is quoted as saying, "I think Francis overextended himself. He wanted to own the studio, run it, and take charge of all creative decisions. Like you mentioned, he wanted to own the rights to the music.
Yeah.
Not even Louis B. Mayer did that." Anyway, it's a terrible shame that it didn't work out because for the first time in 20 years, he was a man who took the musical seriously.
Yes, very true.
Coppola and Kelly would then later fall out, and Kelly would kind of like regress into the project a little more, as Coppola would ask Kelly to choreograph an entire dance number in a day for the next day, and that's not how Gene Kelly works. Like anyone who's seen Singing It in the Rain, which is in my top 5 films of all time, will know that he will spend so long choreographing that the actor's feet will start bleeding.
My God.
This was also the first film to be shot with something called a electronic cinema, which is basically just what we call a digital camera.
Yes, yeah, he was obsessed with this, wasn't he? The idea of instant playback. That was, he commented on the 51st Oscar television broadcast. Like he says, like, we are on the eve of something that's going to make the Industrial Revolution look like a small out-of-town tryout. Wow.
But he would use this technology to create something called the silver fish. Are you aware of the silver fish?
I'm not, Sam. No.
The silver fish is something that really quite caught Waits' imagination, and it was. Hang on, where is it? Yeah, here we go. Coppola's got an over-reliance on technology. He is the prequel to George Lucas and films like The Phantom Menace, and he would sit in this trailer containing beds, a kitchen, monitors, an espresso machine, and a jacuzzi, and he would have a feed from the cameras, and he would direct the actors from hundreds of feet away.
Wow.
And originally they would come out through a speaker for everyone to hear, but during a lot of the more say intimate moments, or when maybe an actor might fuck up, they kind of would feel like they're being puppeteered by a disembodied monster of a director. And basically he would go on to actually use the silverfish for a lot of his other films, including Rumblefish.
Oh, wow.
So it doesn't seem like it's a massive problem, but maybe it is when you're using sets like this. And we'll probably get onto the sets later because it's got really nothing to do with the music. But
no, I think maybe it's worth touching on them briefly because it adds to that. Like, so much of the film does feel really artificial, and not even in a literal way. Like, the sets are obviously incredibly constructed and just completely just of themselves and unique and made. But the fact that it's not on location, the fact that Coppola, was doing this silverfish directing, the fact that the music wasn't built from the ground up, it was done and then placed onto the film, it just leads to this sense of just an incongruous. There's no soul in this film. It feels very parts put together, and the set construction. this is kind of the reason why. Maybe the silverfish stuff as well, technological ones, but this is one of the main reasons that the budget spiraled out of such control. It included a replica. I mean, this film's such a cliche that we have an ending in the airport trying to get her off the plane. Like, Jesus Christ. How many times have we seen this?
Do you want to bring this up now? But, I mean, this is, like, the last act of this movie is the last episode of Friends.
It is, yeah. And on that last act, there is a replica of Las Vegas's McCarran Airport, complete. This is absolutely built with a jetway and a jet airliner. A jet airliner, they built one.
Who was the accountant for this thing?
I know. It was built from a section of a crashed plane, apparently. It was used for the penultimate scene. The sets took up all of the soundstage space, American Zoetrope, as we said. And apparently, this is Dean Tavoularis speaking, who was a long-time set designer with Coppola, worked on Godfather, etc. Apparently, because of the maze of wiring and flammable scrims, the whole thing, the whole Vegas Strip, the centerpiece was apparently half-jokingly referred to as a fire trap. And apparently, Tavoularis has said that he's have, quote, nightmare about fires throughout the film's production, which is just, it's insane. When you look at it, you can imagine, like, behind the scenes, because there's so many lights, like, it must be so dangerous with all the sort of panels and stuff.
And, like, don't forget, like, if you see brickwork, it's just going to be plywood, and, like, these things can go up in seconds. There was quite famously a set on the Lord of the Rings that pretty much went up in one night, and they lost everything.
Oh, wow.
It's so fast.
Yeah.
But, like, if you want to see a multi-million-dollar movie that becomes essentially a game of spot the painted background on the wall, then this is the movie for you. But, like, I know there's this whole, like, he's trying to create the same kind of artifice as, say, a stage show where, like, they do literally have to use sort of Stanley Kubrick-esque perspective and, like, make it look like it's going into the distance. But it just utterly fails. It takes me completely out of the movie. But I wonder if my previous knowledge of, you know, this movie's story and how much was spent on the sets and stuff, that maybe we wouldn't notice it if it hadn't have been such a spectacular failure. I mean, Coppola said that, like, when the film was being shopped around to be sold, that it wasn't even finished, so it never had a chance.
Yeah.
There's something in that's kind of half excuse making, half denial, perhaps.
You've got to respect just the project, in a sense, and what he set out to do. It is very admirable, but it is, you know, a colossal failure, really, you know. And I think what you were saying about people it not being finished and not have a chance. There's a good section in Michael Schumacher, who no relation to the driver, did a really good biography called Francis Ford Coppola: A Filmmaker's Life. And this is what I'm about to say. This comes entirely from the book, and this is about basically when they were releasing the film. So Columbia, hoping to find a way to mount a successful promotional campaign for One from the Heart, conducted exit polls at the theatre showing the picture. These came with discouraging results. Only half of the people who had seen the film had claimed to like it, and a disarming number of people weren't even aware that the picture had been directed by Coppola. In further polls, most surprising was the finding that the men, by a large margin, preferred the movie over women, and that women disliked its surreal element. Cambridge Survey Researcher, a big film research company, which are a team hired by Zoetrope to help the production, concluded that the strategy needed to be one stressing Coppola's direction of the film and accentuating the idea that this was a kind of innovative adventure that he alone could do, complete with fantastic music, lighting, photography, and scenery. The movie, with this retooled marketing strategy, still sunk, and after 20 days in the theatre, it grossed an appalling $800,000, leading Columbia to trim the number of theatres to 8 venues in 8 cities. The attendance became so dismal that by April the 1st, which was only one theatre in the whole country, the Guild in New York, was showing the picture, and on that day, a reporter counted 43 people at the last showing. The following day, Coppola pulled the plug.
I mean, I'm sure you're very aware of this is the start of the decline of the auteur director until people like you could argue that people like Chris Nolan has like brought it back somewhat, but like, you know, in the 70s you've got Spielberg, Scorsese, Coppola, you know, these are big names.
Bogdanovich, yeah.
And this is basically the prelude to the we've had Michael Cimino's 1980 film Heaven's Gate, a similarly notoriously expensive auteur film that also failed at the box office and also brought down its own studio, United Artists.
Interesting. Okay.
Because by April 1981, the film was 20 million over budget. The neon lights cost $1 million alone. The advertisements you just spoke about cost $4 million.
And I mean, not to, but this is $1 million in 1980 money as well.
So this is what, $5 million now.
Well, yeah, but just ridiculous, sprawling, yeah.
But I mean, the only word that I could find in the literature that totally just sums up the critical responses, it just says it was devastating. It just bombs so heavily on release. And Coppola had already taken out several shady loans and sold the TV rights to Apocalypse Now to help pay for this stinker. Like one take would be 10 minutes long, including 30 different camera positions.
Oh my god!
It's like, this is like, I know we've spoken about Tom being a little bit excessive, but this is just ridiculous.
Yeah, and so many of the shots aren't even that outlandish. There's a lot of shots of just in hotel rooms and two people talking over dinner and restaurant shots. There is a few shots that are like huge Singing in the Rain style, like, you know, everyone's dancing and it's awesome. But that only happens briefly. Like, the majority of the film is, the majority of this budget sprawl seems down to a kind of, you know, just an unwieldy director rather than an actual film deserving of such money.
Right.
But
we'll probably get more onto the actual film.
Yeah. I think just before we dig into the music itself, it's worth noting that there is a positive from this film. It got an Academy Award nomination for Tom Waits, which is pretty special to be nominated for an Oscar.
Well, all that does is prove that Eminem is more successful than Tom Waits, though.
There you go. And he is. So I don't really know what your point is, but we have Tom Waits here getting the Academy Award for the Academy Award nomination for Best Musical Score. It was an interesting year, and I've paired he was nominated as Best Original Song Score and Adaptation, but I've also put in Original Score here just to give you a flavour. So I believe this is 1982, 1983, something like that. So in just to take a little trip back in movie time here, Original Score in 1980. So the winner was John Williams' E.T.
Oh, of course, then. Yeah.
Also nominated in original score was Ravi Shankar's Gandhi.
Oh, okay. Love
Jack
that film.
Nietzsche's An Officer and a Gentleman, which I haven't seen, actually.
You know what? He was up against... Dude, these are some good scores, man.
This is not what he's up against. This is just what the score was. Because, as I said, there were two categories, but I just thought it would be interesting just to see the score as well, movie-wise. So we have Jerry Goldsmith for Poltergeist and Marvin Hamlish for Sophie's Choice. So a very strong category. Then in Tom's category, Tom was obviously nominated for One from the Heart. The adaptation score nomination was for Annie by Ralph Burns. And the winner was Victor Victoria by Henry Mancini and Leslie Bricusse.
Henry Mancini, is he the guy who wrote the Peter Gunn theme? I believe he is.
Okay. Well, TomWaitsPodcast at TomWaitsPodcast at gmail.com if you want to get in contact with us on that. That'd be really good to hear.
I'll send you the Peter Gunn song after, and you'll immediately know.
Oh no, I know it. Yeah, I know. Of course, I know it, but I just don't. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like, you know, who wrote several of these riffs. But so yeah, I think it's worth us maybe digging finally into the album. We've had quite a lot of context.
It's just one nice thing just before we dive right in. Apparently, it did a lot better in the UK than in the States. Apparently,
it was a later release, I believe, as well.
How really pushed it? Like, he was like, you know, we've got to get this out there. And I don't know what is different about audience reception over here. I mean, the film itself still bombed over here, so I'm not sure why the album might have done well. Maybe Crystal Gale was big. Potentially.
I think maybe just to give us a bit of a overview of the film, because I think maybe we should I'll briefly sketch out the story of the film as well. Basically,
there's a story.
There's a very brief story. Basically, Franny and Hank, I believe they're called. There's this sort of slightly, you know, late 20s couple basically, and it's their 5-year anniversary, and they have an argument, and they both go out to have a night on the town to forget about the person they love, and they meet someone else, they sleep with those people, they, you know, respectively, and then they get back together at the end. That's pretty much it. It's not very good. And
it's the episode of a TV show, isn't it? It's thin.
Yeah, it's thin as hell. And I think just briefly, again, before we dig into the album, I've just got a little Rotten Tomatoes overview here of what critics have said about the movie, just to help you gauge your experience of it. So, Variety said, this is a hybrid musical romantic fantasy, lavishing giddy heights of visual imagination and technical brilliance onto a wafer-thin story of true love turned sour, then sweet. Kevin Jackson from Time Out says, at times the project seems in danger of being scuppered by its own lavishness. The saving grace is a light heart. Janet Maslin from the New York Times says, there's not a moment in One from the Heart where Mr. Coppola isn't after something romantic and glorious, something inexpressibly grand. At times, he even gets what he wants. And finally...
just Vincent Canby wrote in the original New York Times review, oddly wrote that he said, as a romantic comedy, it was as frothy as 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Wow.
Yeah, that's like the New York Times really seems to like this movie. I have no idea why.
And finally, Dave Kerr for the Chicago Reader said, it isn't very good, but at least the highly touted technology is put firmly in the service of the sometimes painfully sincere emotions that Francis Ford Coppola wants to communicate, which is more than you can say than for Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, reaction, I think it's got like 43%, something like that. It's in the low 40s, so it really isn't regarded highly. I really wouldn't really recommend it either, but if you're a Tom Waits fan, it is so fascinating that he did the soundtrack to a Coppola film. And with that, let's dig into it. The opening montage, Sam, the first song. What do you think about this one?
The opening montage, I think it's important for me to establish that when we do this podcast, we will give each other at least a couple of weeks in advance to familiarise ourselves with these old favourites, start forming our opinions. But literally, after we finished recording Heart Attack and Vine, it was the first time I actually listened to this album the whole way through.
Right, me too.
The general consensus is that, don't go near this toxic wasteland of infamy. And, there seems to be two camps of personalities. Either that it is literally the worst Tom Waits album ever, and you can be accused of being a hater, or you can, other people say that this is like the most underrated album. And it does seem that no one seems to be getting the real logical conclusion that this is just horrifically mediocre. I was quite disappointed at how not that bad it was. Don't get me wrong, this isn't Mule Variations we're talking about here. No. But for the most part, it's pretty inoffensive, if a little trite. But, at times, dare I say, it's quite enjoyable.
Okay, so you're saying you enjoy the opening montage, or...?
The opening montage, Waits' opening tracks, his first tracks, are always good, tone setters and hints at what's to come musically. I love the spinning coin that hits the table at the start that will evoke all the themes of time and money and luck and chance and romanticism.
Yes.
I do feel it takes them quite a little bit too long to finally say once upon a time. We do have some of Tom's best Nighthawks at the Diner filler. And then they actually start singing, and it becomes quite obvious that the promise of a really bad duet vocal harmony isn't actually going to be delivered, and it doesn't hit the kind of area that I want, but I can't call it bad. It's not the Midler incident. And it seems like Tom and Bones have kind of learnt their lessons to some degree on how Tom will sing with other people.
Yes.
It gets very lush very quickly, and it's clear that Waits is going to dump all of the excess schmaltz that is not going to on Swordfish trombones and just give it to Coppola. And that's good.
Yeah, that is true, actually. He does parlay a lot of stuff in. I don't mind this song. I think there's much better tracks on this album. We open, as you say, with the coin clattering, and then Tom comes in on this old crooner style, and we hear about all the two-bit Romeos who counterfeit romance. I don't know, the lyrics are a little terrible for me. I don't think Gail's bad here. She's definitely better than losing Bette Midling, as I call her. But, she's definitely better here, but... And the production feels a bit more streamlined to his previous. It doesn't feel quite as saccharine or hitting you over the head with these strings.
Yeah, it's more like a big, loud band, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely better in its kind of orchestral approach than, say, Foreign Affairs, which had too many moments of lushness for me. And when they finally get Once Upon a Town out, as you say, there is this huge, edifying rush of strings that I do really like as it moves in. Because there's kind of two parts to this song. There's the opening Once Upon a Town part, and then it goes into that kind of subterranean guitar strum, little piano wandering above and a little sax there. It's nice. It's nice that they're quite compatible there. And weirdly, I mean, this is kind of quite an obscure kind of like pull, but the Once Upon a Town, when they sing Once Upon a Town and there's that cue and then that huge rush comes in, it reminds me so much of Thomas Newman's Finding Nemo score.
Oh, really?
Specifically the main song, which is called Nemo Egg, main theme. Listen to it, you'll definitely know it. It's basically what plays after the Barracuda like horribly massacres Nemo's family at the start. And it kind of reminded me of that, and it kind of had a pullback for that. Crystal does her best here, but there isn't really much to be done. I don't know if I'd think this is their best performance together. They kind of step on each other's toes.
Nowhere near their
the interaction isn't very good. This song doesn't necessarily suck, but it's not great. You know, it just kind of. I do like how it fades out, and then we kind of hear the slots. And if you listen with the headphones, you can hear a lot of things going on in there. Like, you know, there's some guy that goes, "Oh, we got a winner!" Like, you can kind of hear that
and then
shouting
hear that,
over. Like,
what's that thing that drops and bounces and vibrates? Because that's the first sound we hear in the movie. Oddly enough. It's like
it is.
A wooden ball or something.
Yeah. Maybe like a ball dropping onto a roulette wheel or something.
Yeah, that's exactly what it. Thank you, Tom. I've been thinking about that for about 3 days now.
But there's not too much to say on this one. There's a lot of bad lyrics. This whole album is littered with bad lyrics.
I like the idea of spending your wages on love, because obviously that is literally brought back round into the themes of the movie. Hank does not spend his money on Franny, but I don't want to give the film too much credit.
No. There's a problem really, because Tom's writing this music before the film or during the film and not after the fact, so he can't really build himself around the narrative of the film. There are quite a lot of like. The lyrics have to be quite vague, so
yeah.
I guess I can give him that. But some of the lyrics that are a bit more pointed are bad. For example, Crystal says towards the end, "Love has a graveyard, an orchard for those who fell on their sabres and paid through the nose." Fell on their sabres. Like, I don't know if the word sabre was contemporary in fucking 1870, let alone 1980.
Well, like, it's clear that he wrote sword and it didn't fit.
Yeah. It's you know, and then as she says sabres, pretty much as that line, we fade out to the slots. To Vegas, we're there in the world. I quite like that it fades out to Vegas. You know, it's successfully done. It's not clumsily done. It works.
Well, like we know that Tom's already worked on a failed musical pitch before. The title escapes me.
Oh, the memory's always sweeter than the dream, or something like that. Yeah.
And it does seem like a lot of these songs, especially the opening montage, it seems a bit of a stitch together. Like, you know, orphans from his repertoire almost, we do know from the Orphans album that Tom can redraft these old tunes well, and like we are going to see that quite a lot on this album. Like again, you know, lyrically, this is not going to be new territory in the slightest. And something that kind of disappointed me on this track was like the ending if almost gets you ready for like some pretty like bold excitement, and then it never really gets there again.
That's true. Yeah. Like if you're told that, okay, Tom Waits is doing a love musical set in Vegas and it's going to be really kind of, you know,
again on paper this is the best album ever, isn't it? Yeah.
Amazing. Like hang on, who's the director? Francis Ford Coppola. Oh my God! Like, you know, I mean, obviously the cast is terrible. So Harry Dean Stanton's in it. That old guy from Avengers. Shit.
If this film came out today, it would have been like the recent Fantastic Four thing. There would have been so much press and courage. Like, we would have known it was a stinker before. But it's so weird that like in 1980, you don't know a film's going to be shit until it's in cinemas.
So we don't. The opening montage you kind of probably hear throughout the film, but it's not explicit where it takes place. Whereas the second song, "Is There Any Way Out of This Dream," which is quite a nice title, actually, I have to say. I quite like that one. The question to the audience and stuff like that. This does crop up. This basically crops up after the main couple have had an argument early on, and then they've got back together, which kind of, you know, allows us to gauge how tempestuous they really are. And then I think it's just before they sleep with each other, this song kind of plays, and the inference of what it's trying to say is kind of there. Like, Franny's in this idealistic, you know, idyll that's kind of fractured, and it's not a dream. She wants to get out of it and stuff like that. But again, it's an early example of the songs not doing justice to the film. Like, these aren't great songs, but they deserve a better film, I have to say.
I think we actually hear little snippets of this song when we meet Franny early on, and she's literally in the window where she has a dream of going to Bora Bora.
Yeah.
And again, we're not trying to give this film credit, but like, again, that does fit quite nicely.
It is, but it's one of those things where it's like they fit almost coincidentally and incidentally, and it never feels like you've got the reassuring hand of a director and a composer interlocked, and they really know what's going on here and they really know where their cues are. It just seems like there's a lot of kind of like happy accidents.
Unlike, say, Spielberg and Williams, who would obviously win that year.
Exactly.
This one starts off light and quite somber. It feels a lot more like a Tom Waits song than the last one, definitely. But obviously, it doesn't like feature him. I enjoy the almost Hugo-esque bass line.
Yeah.
And I start to get the feeling that the people who are more susceptible to Phase One Tom Waits really won't have as many qualms with this album as, say, fans of his latter period. Like a lot of this is short but sweet. There's a Foreign Affairs-y type oboe, which I think Tom may have chosen because it is more of a tender instrument, whereas he would have a more sharp saxophone or trumpet. And the oboe does fit appropriately with Gail's sort of unfamiliarly sweet voice. It has that melancholic, self-referential like hypothesis that Tom likes so much. I'm also quite interested in like the song title itself, like the idea that maybe a woman is singing about, is she singing about the dream that she's been sold in life? Is she talking about like she just literally wants to get away from dreams? Does she feel like like she's sleeping through life? Again, I don't want to put too much emphasis on this song.
We really don't want to give Coppola any credit here.
No, we're like we are coming for him today. This. What this song does make me ponder, though, and like you should never live in a world of what ifs, people. It's not healthy. No. But it does make me think: would this album be better if it was just Tom writing songs for Gail and himself, and just them on their own?
Maybe. I think the best moments are the Tom Waits moments, though, in the album. So it's not like Crystal has great shining moments. Then it's like, oh, I wish she was on it more. If anything, she's on this album too much. So this is kind of her solo song, and it's like I'm not quite sure how I feel about this, and my ambivalence stems from Gail. I think she has this really annoying way of singing where she just pulls words apart. Summer is dry. It's like fucking hell. Summer goes on for so long, that song, and it's a really like fairy godmother kind of song. Like it's just a bit. There's a levity to the melody that I don't mind. It's a little pronounced for my taste, but there's nice airy melodic shapes. But like she delivers the lines with such stone-faced sincerity. She adds no character. When she's like, let's take a hammer to it, there's no glamour to it. That's quite a nice rhyme, you know what I mean? It's quite an interesting image as well. But the sort of, the Julie Andrews way she delivers it is just, I find it really unengaging. And also, I'm sorry, the opening lyric, I can clearly see nothing is clear. You can express that in a better way.
Okay, like I didn't spot that until you laid it out like that. But it's terrible.
Yeah, like what? Like I really like in my notes I've just put the word. I've just put like 5 question marks. Like because I'm not sure. Like Tom, just build some sort of image that's obscured. Like you're a really talented writer. You can do this. Don't say I can clearly see nothing is clear.
Yeah, we're not mad at Tom on this album. We're just a bit disappointed.
Yeah, exactly. I feel that Tom just did his best here. He was in because there's a great quote actually. So there's a fantastic interview that I found with Tom being interviewed by Peter Guttridge, and this was in City Limits. The interview is called A Simple Love Story. It's from July, I think it was conducted July 1st to the 7th, 1983. So Tom is asked, what is One from the Heart? And he says, what's One from the Heart? Son of a bitch is what it is. I've never been in that kind of situation before. Doing a film score requires an application detail I'm not accustomed to. Plus, I was working with someone else's approval, which was hard for me. And which is very telling. And later he would say, Waits would say, I was a very undisciplined writer until I began working with Francis. The seasons when you're working for a major company aren't necessarily the same seasons which coincide with your own creative development. So Tom has very much been on his own dime. He's been on his own nickel this whole time, if you were. And now he's under the thumb of someone. And if he's putting out slightly, contracted music, we can't quite blame him. The situation is such an unusual one.
You can never blame one person for a movie ever. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of people on this project. I did find it interesting that Tom is writing for another voice. Like he's sung in other voices. Christmas Card from a Hook in Minneapolis, but he said in an interview with BAM magazine in 1982, I found that it was hard writing for a woman. There are certain words they're uncomfortable with, just like you said. I can get away with a certain vernacular, while a woman singing it would have trouble. I had to change things around, put everything into her words. It was tough. I feel like I was writing lines for an actress.
That's interesting.
I totally get the idea that these are still Tom Waits songs. Like Gail in one of the songs will sing about railroad tracks, and I'm like, you know, that's not your line, Gail. You like. Don't lie.
It'd be interesting because obviously, as we spelled out earlier, me and Sam know nothing of Crystal Gayle beyond this. But obviously, she had a huge career, so it'd be interesting to listen to if we listen to her music and if it's the greatest hits, and if these songs are there, and if they feel like Crystal Gayle songs or not. Because I mean, they feel like Tom Waits songs to me, but arguably her voice could push it in another way if you're a Crystal fan. You know.
Well, that can be our homework for the next episode.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you are a Crystal fan as well, please at TomWaitsPodcast. TomWaitsPodcast@gmail.com. Just get in touch with us, and anything in general, anything like Tom Waits, we're happy to speak about. But it'd be interesting to hear from any Crystal Gayle fan. Is there any good Crystal Gayle songs? Is there any good
I've got
Crystal
a horrible
Gayle
feeling
albums?
that the biggest amount of correspondence for any question we're going to get is going to be from Crystal Gayle fans now.
Oh, we're just endless. It's just like
now, from a song that's used quite not in quite a subtle way. Like I say, there's multiple ways of looking at it. We're going to come to a very obvious use of the song now.
Yes.
Picking Up After You, Tom.
Yes. I kind of like Picking Up After You, actually, I have to say. I don't think this is I think this is quite a good song, one of the better songs on the album. We start with this really lazy Louis Armstrong horn, kind of like just as this almost just kind of fluttering in. A nice cascading chord changes as well. And as you say, like the whole song, the idea of picking up after you, in terms of a duet, you can take it as they're picking up the melody after them and stuff like this. Literally, Gail and Tom are picking up after each other in the song, which is quite nice. And you can also apply that to in the film itself. I mean, we're going quite chronological so far. This is the third song, an early song. It's also used early in the film. This is used after an argument that Franny and Hank have, and they literally are picking up after each other. And there's a line about eating chicken and wine later on in the song, and we see Hank eating chicken and wine, so it's kind of like, you get it. But again, Gail, you're a little too clumsy here. I'm going to keep making the same point, but I think she doesn't seem to get Tom Waits and what he's giving her, and she delivers it in the stone-faced way. So when she says, I quite like the smells like a pool hall, and then she really, again, with summer, she goes, where's my other shoe? That's funny. Smells like a pool hall, where's my other shoe? Builds an image, makes you realise that they've probably fucked and got undressed and now it's wild and stuff like this. But
no, dude, the trumpet on this track played by Sheldon is it's quite seductive. The trumpet is like fucking both Tom Waits and Gail on this track.
Yeah. But then there's kind of weird Tom Waits lyrics how long have you been combing your hair with a wrench? It's like zinc. I don't know if that's a zing or not. It's not very, yeah.
It's very much one of those more call and answer things, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the best song so far, I think, and I really like the. I think melodically it's a grower, but one of the things that does stick out is Tom's bridge. When Tom can finally be Tom in this album and really have his guttural kind of call with it, when it's like, I told you before, I tell you again, it's nice. And then he has that weird lyric where it's like, you don't defrost the icebox with a ballpoint pen. I again, quite obvious what he means. You can't attack a big object with small intentions, but the image is a little weird. You know what I mean? It feels again like Tom is littering these songs with these images in the hope that Coppola will, pick up on this and resonate with them. Yeah, exactly. And the songs will have a certain reverb to them, a certain echo.
This song will always be sullied with me because it is in one of the most it is used in one of the most bland, uninteresting arguments I've ever seen. We're going to get onto this later, but Hank and Franny do nothing to endear us to them. And this song carries us through some obviously horrible green lighting, some obviously horrible red lighting, and it's oh look, there's someone playing the trumpet on this track, and then Hank can't play his own trumpet. Do you get it? And then Coppola makes the two characters have sex, and they're already both particularly bland looking, but we actually get to a point where Coppola makes it look like it's your parents are having sex.
It's not sexy.
And it's at this point in the film where you realise you are in fact stuck with these two characters.
Yeah, they're completely unengaging characters. Hank especially is very unlikable. He's quite a boorish, sit at the dinner table with his shirt off, drink beer, doesn't want anything in life but his girl and to go out and stuff. He's just this ain't a main protagonist to latch onto. This is an asshole and needs to get taken out.
Do you want to get onto casual sexism in this movie?
Please, yeah, it's littered throughout.
Yeah, like I mean, Hank constantly refers to Franny as his woman, my woman. Come here, like he literally kidnaps her in the nude at one point. Which is a very odd scene.
Yeah, it's a terrifying scene. That is. Yeah.
There was something you picked up on with Ray though.
Ray.
Franny's love interest at the piano.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just seems to be very kind of like forceful with her, and like says like she's got no option but to love him, and she really doesn't pick up on that.
Yeah. No, there doesn't. Yeah, so basically, there's a scene later on where Franny goes off with Ray, the pianist, who's probably one of the better characters, and they sleep together. You know,
I like Ray in this.
Yeah, me too. Actually, I think he's quite good. Ray, who what's his name? Now we were speaking about this earlier. Ray, who has had a great career actually. Unfortunately, he died quite young, which is quite sad. I believe he died when he was like 60 or so. I'm just getting the full cast up now. I don't want to do. Okay, here we go. Ray's played by Raul Julia, who you may not recommend. Oh yeah, he died at 54. Very sad.
That's a shame.
Yeah, great shame. So Ray is perhaps best known either for playing M. Bison in the Street Fighter movie,
of course,
or perhaps most he plays the dad in both Addams Family films. He plays Gomez Addams.
Gomez!
Yeah,
thank you.
Gomez. So sorry, Ray's not a bad character. So basically, Franny sleeps with Ray to get at Hank, or just for her own validation. Seems to quite like Ray. And they're in bed together, you know, they're kind of naked and sort of enjoying the post-glow or whatever. And then just Hank, boorish Hank, just breaks in, picks up naked Hanny, straps her on her back. It's kind of played for laughs, but it's not funny. Like, he puts her in a car and just says, like, you come with me, you have no choice. She's just consummated love with someone else. Yeah, she's just clearly, like, trying to move on. It's like the tone here is really, I don't know if I'm reading this with like a 2015, you know, SJW kind of vibe, but this is just a guy just basically abusing his girlfriend. It's hard to watch at times. And like
it's annoying because like you realize that Coppola wrote this. It's like, is this what you feel about women, mate? Like, do you really like, do you shout at your wife, you know, you used to look good and like you used to be thin and you used to shave your legs and stuff? It's you know what, it's just not interesting. It's not engaging watching both characters not put the effort in. Like if there was just one of them,
yeah,
it'd be fine.
Yeah. No, I agree. But it's just the song as a whole is not a bad song though. Getting back to Pick Up After You, you know, it's quite a fun number. There's a moment in it that I think is quite clever and quite nice, where basically it's kind of building on the idea of this moment in the scene where they're pointing out each other's flaws and how they were better off with each other. You were thinner when you weren't with me. You used to shave your legs, etc., etc. You know, this common sort of relationship argument. But basically, Tom says in the song, like, you know, when you're not here, I really swing when you're gone. And the music takes up a bit of a swing sort of timbre to it, which is quite nice as well. Like, very subtly, but the rhythm kind of pulls up and pulls down just as he says that line, as swing music does. So I found that really, really satisfying. And I don't know if you noticed the pull of the sax as well. Basically, the sax, it just kind of it's got a nice solo at the end, but it ends on that kiss. Did you hear that kiss?
What? There's literally a kiss in there.
Yeah, like it's quite clear actually.
Well,
no. The sax kind of ends and go mwah, like that. So it's the sax doing that, but it sounds like an actual, you know, a physical lip smack. Right at the end of Picking Up After You, and it's actually used in the film as well. I forget exactly where it takes place in the film. I think it just takes place at the end when they've kind of like they've left each other, and then Hank is kind of in his house, kind of despondent, and just kind of almost mockingly ends with a kiss on that note.
Yeah, that's just typical Waitsy bittersweetness, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's a sax. It's interesting that it comes through the sax rather than the kiss. It's you know, it's a bit of a no-brainer, this whole song, but it's not bad.
Next track,
Old Boyfriends.
In an interview with Bam Magazine again, Tom Waits basically says, "Old Boyfriends was originally for me, and then for her, and then it turned into a duet." So I kind of like the evolution of that. A lot of the songs kind of genesis comes from a story Tom heard about trumpeter Nat Hensford meeting Miles Davis, who was an old acquaintance of his. They'd recorded some albums together, and then apparently Davis just says, "Nat, we're from a different time and we need our old friends," and obviously just that phrase just clicked in Tom's head. He thought it was particularly touching, and he shifts it into old boyfriends instead. And like lyrically, I think this is, you know, good lyrics on quite a bad album. It's hard not to be won over by something so unashamedly nice and sweet. A song it does kind of evoke that forever unresolved tragedy that Tom associates with past lovers, or anyone for that matter.
Yes, that almost mythic heartbreak that will never be, ordered. It's not a bad song. I mean, I quite like the guitar at the start. There's quite some intricate little movements there, and
it's very Blue Valentine's, isn't it?
It is incredibly Blue Valentine's. Yeah, it's very similar to that song, and like there's a nice little beboppy kind of asides of the guitar that work well under the melody. It's a little maudling. It's one of those melodies, those grand old boyfriend, kind of sweeps over the song and kind of pulls you by the hand. It's too long of a number for me because the song doesn't have much compositional rigor, really. There's little else. Like when you listen to this song on repetitive listens, you realise that it's just got its chorus and its guitar. It's not got much of a thrust to it.
Well, like there are parts where it becomes clear that like Tom's getting quite indulgent at this point. It becomes quite cluttered. Like all you needed was Gail, him, and the guitar, and like the song also highlights how like annoyingly samey a lot of the bass on this album is.
Yes, yeah. There's no distinct Hugart kind of riffy, is there?
I miss him still.
I do miss him, and the lack of having a story. If you were to just listen to this album, not knowing it was part of a musical and not being able to get hold of the musical itself, and just kind of trying to follow a story, you couldn't. Like, no characters have been introduced, no characterization, no real narrative thread here, and this is just more of a. This feels like a blander track. This feels like Tom knew that the music was going to be, the musical was going to be about heartbreak. There was inevitably going to be a song in which kind of people were going to be reminiscing on old lovers. So let's write a song called Old Boyfriends, because you can fit that in anywhere. The same way you can fit We Are the Champions into any film.
Tom basically he knows he's got a sizable arsenal of writing styles. He knows he can jump into the perspective of a woman, a la Christmas Card from Hooker in Minneapolis. It's nice to see that Gail might sing the melodies a little differently than Tom, with these different stresses on the different words. But again, it's still a Waits song, and it's nothing more than a weird cover, but not a cover, with some Hawaiian SpongeBob guitar in there.
Yeah. Which Young at Heart is probably the best Hawaiian guitar ever on Tom Waits. Amazing song. We cover that on our best Tom Waits guitar moments and on TomWaitsPodcast.wordpress.com. So yeah, check out the Down in the Hole blog as well. This is the longest song on the album, and there's 4 5-minute tracks on this album. The rest are quite small, so it gives it quite a nice, it doesn't feel too much of a drag of an album to listen to as a whole. But this is one of the moments when it feels a bit flabby for me. The lines, they're just very like. I don't know, you talk about the lyric solos being alright on this. I don't think they are. They don't really make sense. Old boyfriends turn up every time it rains, fall out of the pages in a magazine. Old boyfriends. Girls fill up the bars every spring, not places for remembering. Old boyfriends, all my old boyfriends, old boyfriends. Just this old boyfriends refrain. It's quite a clumsy kind of like, there's no simile there. Like, I'm literally talking about old boyfriends. Like, at least with Broken Bicycles, you have this kind of like symbolic image to center the song, but this is just so broad. It really feels like Tom wrote this song because he knew that there needed to be a song like this on the album. And Gail does what she does, and I can imagine her doing this song in her solo sets, even though I've never heard her music. I'd imagine it's quite a nice representation and quite a nice exhibition for her style on this album, but it's just, this ain't a satisfying song. This isn't a song that makes me feel anything beyond, pressing the skip button.
Well, you've already stolen my transition into Broken Bicycles.
Okay.
So, I think I'll just jump straight into
a
quote again from the same interview. Francis and Richard Beggs were constantly trying to put different things against different songs, against different scenes. They were very experimental in that way, always thinking, what could happen if we moved this song there and replaced it with another one? So then it was in, it was out, then it was in again, and now it's been replaced by a song called Wages of Love, and then it became Broken Bicycles.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like an orphan for a while, until Francis shot a scene with Freddie in the junkyard, Despondent, and we tried to create a song against that scene. It worked, and it stayed in the film. And again, it does kind of fit. Like, obviously, Hank has a really seedy garage on the edges of the desert. He looks forlorn, and by desert I mean studio desert. And it is full of rusting old junk.
I actually love that set. I think that set's really cool.
That's actually not part of Zoetrope. It's actually on a backlot.
Oh, okay.
It actually does have I think it's more for the nighttime stuff with Leela.
Yeah. It's nice that the whole set where he's kind of in, just to kind of visualize it for you listening, like he's kind of in this kind of backyard lot, and there's like it's like where all the old it reminded me of a film, and I can't remember what film it is. I think it's an action film where basically the final scenes take place in like a junkyard in Vegas, where all the old Vegas neon signs are. If anyone can remember that film, get in contact. TomWaitsPodcast at TomWaitsPodcast gmail.com. But yeah, the scene's really good, and like you were talking about earlier about the sets being painted, that's one of the ones that I really like, because there's a big painted set, and you can see Vegas glittering in like a sort of a little kind of valley really far off, and it gives it a nice sense of distance. But this song, don't like this song at all. I really like the we spoke about this on Martha, and we speak about this a lot on Tom Waits. Like, there's a lot of Tom Waits piano stuff that is very holding your hand, similar to I forget the name of the song now, but it escapes me off Small Change. But it's the way it holds your hand, basically. You feel this piano melody, you know where it's going from the first note. We pull out into him singing about broken bicycles. He finishes his verse, piano melody returns, second half of the song. Just structurally, it's very uninventive.
He's clearly just like found his little book that he keeps in his pocket called Emotive Visual Imagery, and like he's just thrown it into a song. I must admit, I do like the idea of a persistent memory being represented by old rusting bicycles.
Yeah. Like
the memory will stay there until you do something about it, but also that memory will like rot and degrade in the background as well.
And it's just testament to the incongruous nature of this narrative on this film with the music. Like, the song's called Broken Bicycles, but you don't actually ever see a broken bicycle in this whole film. It's more just like rusted old cars. So it's clearly like there was no conference here. Like they weren't thinking. And like a lot of the lyrics I don't like. Someone must have an orphanage for these things no one wants anymore. I gotta say, there is a moment in the lyrics that I really like. I really like the idea of the mumps talking to each other. So he says, quote, "September is reminding July, it's time to be saying goodbye. Summer is gone, but our love will remain, like old broken bicycles in the rain, etc." But that's nice. But aside from that, and it's nice though that this song has that diegetic sound where the outside world leaks in at the end. So you hear the crickets and a far off like freight train wheezing and very Tom Waitsy things.
That train reminds me a lot of the end of Chicago off Bad As Me, and as well as the remix of Hang On St. Christopher, taken from one of the underground demos. So something that I've been really diving into lately. On the Twitter, you posted the track of Papa's Got a Brand New Bag that he covers, which was utterly like that completely came out of nowhere for me. I was like, oh, thank God he's done something like this. And it's great that someone just kind of has stolen it from him. Like,
well, I mean,
they've clearly like filmed it. Like, someone who knew Tom Waits was coming to the venue has clearly set up some audio equipment somewhere.
Well, I mean, there's always going to be bootlegs for Waits gigs, isn't there? Because they're too good not to. I think I haven't really got too much to say on this album, so I think I'd like to just flesh it out a little bit with a nice quote from Tom on working with Francis Ford Coppola. So he said, quote, "But you know the man." This is from the same interview that I was speaking about earlier. The one I was speaking about earlier, where somewhere one from the heart is a bitch and all that sort of stuff, son of a bitch. So he says, quote, "But you know the man is incredible. There's no distance for him between imagination and execution. It's devilish. I have an idea. Francis says, great. Starts working out ways to do it. I'm saying, well, yeah, it's only an idea that's just occurred, Francis. The next day he's setting up machinery and doing it. Coppola is an angel, a man with a vision. He wants to be one of those old moguls with big cigars, but he's not your typical cigar. He really cares. I admire his courage because he's getting into a lot of trouble over his conscious thing. He cares about cinema, where it's going." And he does, but it's it's fascinating, really, that Coppola's trajectory is kind of the classic trajectory of an artist, really, most artists, and Tom Waits escaped that trajectory, where Coppola had an unbelievable early batch of work and hasn't really had anything good for 30 years. Like, it's kind of sad.
Well, if I may beg your pardon,
please.
Let's get on to I Beg Your Pardon.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I thought you were going to say that there was a Francis Ford Coppola film that you love from the 90s.
We obviously covered Bram Stoker's Dracula.
We did actually. No, sorry, I'll take that back. Bram Stoker's Dracula was very good. Yeah. There's also another one out with. No, it's not perfect. There's one with Jeff Bridges from the early 90s, which I was reading lots of good things about, and it's about a guy who kind of who challenges the car industry. It's called Tucker, the Man and His Dream. Oh,
he invents something, and the automotive industry buries him.
The IMDb brief biography says, the story of Preston Tucker, a maverick car designer, and his ill-fated challenge to the auto industry with his revolutionary car concept. That could be quite good, actually. But yeah, sorry, beg your pardon.
I beg your pardon, as we get on to beg your pardon.
It's one of the best examples of the solos on this album. Like, definitely the rough tones should stay with Tom, and the smoother tones need to stay with Gail. Like, this could really appear on any of Waits' contemporary album at this time and still be quite comfortable with that sort of low energy vocal hook that always comes round, and it's always satisfying when he rocks it. I get a lot of Duke Ellington from this song.
Yeah, totally.
It reminds me of Do Nothing Till You Hear From Me, with that sort of blistering trumpet that has that, more sweet nectar than you can shake a stick at.
Oh, the trumpet at the end of this is so good. There's like spitter, spatter, falling in and out. It's just a nice ending to what is quite a boozy lullaby of a song.
It's got one of the most heartfelt lyrics for me personally, because I'm a big fan of emotionally charged games like Monopoly.
Right.
And the fact that Tom would choose to express his love by confessing that he'd give her his boardwalk and park place and all of his hotels. Like, this is some really valuable property here, Tom. This is the equivalence of Park Lane and Mayfair.
Yeah, this is huge.
But it also
on
could
the
be...
blues tip, yeah.
It could be a sleight of hand, though, because... it's been documented in so many books that Tom Waits is an avid Monopoly player, that if he would know that the real best properties are the orange and red ones just after you come out of jail. So it could be some sort of fake consolation prize for the woman. But I reckon that is definitely going too much into
perhaps
conspiratorial.
Perhaps. Yeah, this is a nice song. I like this one. I think this one could live outside the incubator of One from the Heart and exist on some of Tom's earlier work. We have, along with Crows, as we discussed before, if you want to see every mention of Crows in Tom Waits' work, go on our blog, TomWaitsPodcast.wordpress.com. Another thing that Tom Waits mentions a lot, and that I do want to do a blog on sometime in the future, is scarecrows. Scarecrows turn up a lot in Tom Waits' music. And we open with I'm just a scarecrow, without you baby please don't disappear, I beg your pardon dear. And it's just nice that, every time beg your pardon's mentioned, there's a little uplift, a little kind of, a rise of sound here. There's a sultry thrum of strings. There's lovely xylophone. I actually checked out the vibraphone. I checked out the compositional metadata for this song, and it's Emil Richards, and I sorted out because I thought it's fantastic. The vibraphone here, it builds out these really nice skeletal elements. It gilds the edges of all the lyrics. It brings out a lot in this song, and this is a solo song, right? This is Tom's first solo track as well on the album, where no crystal to be seen.
Like, his voice gets really low down, no pun intended.
Yeah.
Like, he flirts between like Burma Shave and Take It With Me.
Yeah, his voice is subdued here. Really, really nice, yeah.
It's also nice to see Tom, like, literally begging for the pardon of a woman. Obviously, in England, I beg your pardon can mostly mean, could you move to the side slightly?
Yeah.
But here, like, he is really, like accepting the fate of his relationship. And, like, normally he'd be at the bottom of a bottle or something in one of these songs. But here he is just, like, he's begging for forgiveness. It's interesting you should mention scarecrows as well, because there's another thing he mentioned in this song that he's sung about quite a lot, which is St. Louis.
Yes.
Now, here's a little challenge for you, Tom. Can you name the other 3 songs that mention St. Louis?
Train Song.
Yep.
No, this is great. This is great podcast. No, I can't. I just write
broke
down in East St. Louis. Yeah.
The other 2 are Time and Hold On.
Oh, yeah, I never would have got that.
And when asked about St. Louis, Tom goes, "No, I never lived there. It's just a good name to stick in a song. Every song needs to be anatomically correct," which he's mentioned before.
Yeah, no, it's a very Tom Waits. The problem is, you can say it's a very Tom Waits place, and you can name pretty much any American town. But St. Louis, I mean, I guess because it's about the sainthood to a certain extent as well. And there's something quite old, like St. Louis feels like a real throwback place, doesn't it? Even though I couldn't really tell you much about it.
No, he says, like, you're writing a song and you need a town, and you look out the window and you see St. Louis Cardinals on some kid's t-shirt, and you say, we'll use that then.
Yeah. Nice intro, nice outro to this song, excuse me, as well. The strings are nice, a little bit overpowering for me personally, but in the context of what song they're leading into, it makes sense. It's kind of like a palate cleanser. This is one of those songs on the album, one of those rare songs on the album that doesn't necessarily feel as if a director's hand is on it. This feels like a song that Tom, as you say, could have written for himself. Yeah, and for that reason, it works.
He brought this whole to him, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I really like the fragility of, I got upset, I lost my head, I didn't mean the things I said. Landscape of My Dreams is a little bit, I'm not sure about that one. I think that's a bit of a clunky line. But to be honest, the mention of St. Louis, the Monopoly, the Scarecrow, the subtle melody, this is a good track. I like I Beg Your Pardon.
And it's Bones Howe doing what Bones Howe does best, just like filling in the spaces that really adds the weight to a Waits track.
I'm trying to remember where this song takes place in the film. Is it in the film at all? Can you remember?
It is, but I have not written down
that's the problem, really, that just so many of these... Some are very obvious where they come, and some are just, you know...
And the album starts off in order.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't, and then it just throws it out the window, which, again, in the same way that Empty Pockets and Once Upon a Town is flipped over in the song, I'm pretty damn sure now that Tom is just fucking with us at this point, like with grammar Nazis, you know what I mean? He doesn't give a crap.
No. But as we said, it's like, you know, while a lot of the songs are barely here, here's one of the songs, Little Boy Blue, that has its own number. Sam, talking about Little Boy Blue.
Right, Francis Ford Coppola is one of cinema's biggest cock teases, because I love Little Boy Blue.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't wait to hear Tom sing this in the movie.
Yeah.
And then Coppola goes, you know what? You know Klaus Kinski, that really crazy actor who's in Werner Herzog's films.
Yeah.
Why don't we get his daughter, the star of the remake of Cat People? One of the worst remakes ever. Let's get her to sing this Tom Waits song that's clearly a Tom Waits song. You know, like this is clearly some sort of mesh of Romeo is Bleeding and Dave the Butcher with some more of that. You know, when like the melody and his vocals really kind of come to this amalgamation where you don't know where one ends and the other begins, and it becomes very much like a groovy Diamonds on My Windshield piece. And he's going to give all of this to be the one song sung by the actors. It makes no sense to me.
No, it doesn't. I think that if you were to go through each of these songs, so there's 15 songs on the One from the Heart soundtrack, this song, Little Boy Blue, is probably the most obviously sung from a musical. Like, there's something about his delivery. She used to render you legal and tender when you used to... Like, that feels like an old musical, doesn't it? That feels like something you'd hear in, like, you know, Demon Barber of Fleet Street or Chicago. It has that kind of throwbacky kind of vaudevillian melody to it that I like. And this is one of those songs where this is, like, such a Tom Waits song. From the second to get-go, the pulsing bass, the organ, the constant employment of nursery rhyme mechanics, you know, Dish Ran Away with a Spoon.
Can you name the other two songs that use the Dish Ran Away with the Spoon? It is Jane's Blue Wish and Everything You Can Think.
Oh my god! Okay, these are good. I like these actually because Tom Waits' music is like that, isn't it? It just the wrinkles turn up in the most unexpected places.
He's almost Tarantino-esque in his intertextuality. Like,
he is.
It's also the first song that was actually recorded on the project and was completed 6 months after he finally got there. So
interesting.
Like this song took a while. In context of the movie. Hank is stood against this giant blue neon face, and then it turns into Leela, who is literally a woman he bumped into on the street and falls in love with very much the same that Franny and Ray do.
Yeah.
But I is this scene meant to be them? Like, is this meant to represent their date and them falling in love?
Yeah, it's very weird because Franny. So we have Franny and Hank. By the way, just as a quick thing, but this is weird coincidence. But obviously, you know, when you have celebrity couples like Angelina and Brad, you get Brangelina, etc., like that. With Franny and Hank,
you get Frank.
You do get Frank, which obviously is an incredibly important figure in the mythos of Tom Waits.
Well, not only that, it's his dad's name.
Well, of course, but I mean, it's a weird coincidence. But yeah, so with Franny, and what's the guy's name? Sorry, Raoul.
No, Raoul's the actor's name. He's Ray.
With Franny and Gomez Adams, basically, they have a genuine courting process. He flirts with her, he asks her out, they have a nice back and forth. There's a good scene in the restaurant, probably the best scene in the film, I would argue.
You stole that from me again. It's clearly the best scene because there's actually like emotion there.
It's funny. It's a funny scene. Basically, we're going to ruin the scene for you because you're not going to watch One from the Heart, are you? And by the way, One from the Heart's really hard to get. Sam had to buy it on DVD, and I was downloading it for literally 5 or 6 days. Like, you know, you're gonna like it doesn't seem easy. There's not much on YouTube either, but basically, there's a really good scene when Franny's charmed by this guy who says that he's a piano player at a bar, and she's like, oh my god, you know, it's so sexy. She goes to the bar to meet him, and he's actually a waiter. Well, he plays piano as well, but he's more of a waiter sort of thing, and
very much like Tom as a bouncer.
Yeah, exactly. And there's just nice funny asides, like this kind of like his boss calls him out, and his boss points out another waiter, and he's like, this guy sings and he's a waiter, and he's happy with both. Why can't you be like that? And and he's like all that sort of stuff, and then basically he quits his job, and they just start having a date while he's being fired. It's a really good scene. So with Fran and Ray, you feel them as a legitimate couple, but as you were saying with Lila and Hank, all you get is this little boy blue scene. You get her kind of seducing him with this weird throwback. It's hard to put it into words, the style of camera that's used, the sort of editing style. But if you saw it, you'd recognise it. But yeah, it's kind of like you have Hank sort of smoking a cigarette and looking slightly bemused as this girl sings Little Boy Blue to him, which is just... And the song makes no... I mean, I guess Little Boy Blue, come blow your top and cut it right down to the quick. There's a slight seduction element there, but it seems more violent than romantic to me.
Obviously, I don't want to mention Tarantino again, but it is filmed like a pulp comic.
Yes, it is. You'd understand the visual language immediately as you saw it, and the bass is very present in this song. Ronnie Barron, who is like a sort of new Jim Hugart for me, he's another brilliant Tom Waits regular contributor, probably best known for his organ work on Downtown. He's lovely here. Like the keys are tapped so wildly, you can hear them. You can really hear them pounding, can't you? It's a really great sound.
It's demented, isn't it? Like, I know that we've said that basically the film doesn't show the relationship blooming, but the song does have this sort of youthful lure and pull of that sort of sensuality that does kind of work, but it's still kind of creepy in a way, and it's kind of warped. But I really feel like that's the mood he was striving for. So in that sense, it is kind of a success.
Yeah, and there's some nice rhyming. He rhymes abracadabra with everything is Canada dry, like abra Canada. That's quite nice. The song has quite a lot of improvisational rambles, despite being, I think it's 3 minutes or so. You can hear the energy here. You can hear the authenticity and the reasoning behind it. But it's so weird because the album version is the Tom Waits version that we're reviewing now. But obviously in the film, as Sam was saying, Lila, the really uninteresting love interest of Hank, she sings the whole thing and does a terrible job. She sings it in such a kind of plain androgynous,
and it cuts out the best solo on the album, which is the outro Heart Attack and Vine shriek on the keyboard.
Ronnie Barron.
The shit hits the fan. I had to sit down. It was a little too intense for me. I was like, bloody hell, this has come out of nowhere.
Yeah. It's really nice, and there's some nice Tom Waits lyrics as well that you might have missed because this song, as you say, a lot of instruments at the forefront. Whenever it rains, the umbrellas complain. They always get played for a chump, which is quite nice as well. And it kind of reminded me of a line from Bad As Me, actually. I forget what song it is, but he talks about umbrellas always cost more when it rains.
Raised Right Men.
Is that Raised Right Men? Okay.
Oh, I can't wait to get to Bad As Me, dude. I really can't. It's a 10 out of 10 album.
It is. It's like
it was the highest rated album on Metacritic the year it came out.
Wow. Fuck. 2011 as well. Good year for music, yeah. But we're in 1982 now, Sam. So with that, Jesus, that's almost 30 years away. Bad As Me.
We're going to go on to the next track has either got a very interesting title, which is called The Tango / Circus Girl, or on some of the albums it's just called Instrumental Montage.
Yes, on mine, and I fucking love this. I absolutely think this is a highlight of the album. This is basically two instrumental songs put together with a...
You know what, Tom, do you want to do the tango? I'm going to do Circus Girl.
Right, okay, no problem. So, tango. Fuck, man, we're in Rain Dogs country. You know what I mean? From the back, that just off-kilter, boomy, kind of thundering, diatonic. There's a horn hovering like a bee in the middle of the mix. Listen, seriously, go back and listen to Instrumental Montage. And around the 30-second mark, you can kind of hear the... Around the 30-second mark, you can kind of hear the sax come in. You can hear it around, but it's been there since the 20. It basically joins the horn amongst the progression, and it's got these kind of garbled wings that kind of caws and weaves abstractly amongst the tones, like a snake coming from a basket. It's a wild song, and then 2 minutes in, you get the new song entirely, the sea shanty rumble of Circus Girl, Sam.
Yeah, this is just basically the prequel to Shore Leave.
It's very similar.
This is very what the fuck. Not trying to plug the article.
Yeah.
It is when Bones Howe says he was trying to rein in Tom, and he could tell that he was going in another direction. Tom's just gone, right, this is an instrumental. I don't have to make these saccharine lyrics. Let's just make something kind of crazy. And he's never really worked with like a lot of the instruments on this track as well.
Okay.
Like, the accordion, which will become a staple of the Big Time show.
Yeah.
Like he does experiment with it here. It actually plays in the film. I actually can't remember where the tango features.
It basically, I was really looking forward to hearing this within the actual song itself, but unfortunately, you hear Ray play like 3 or 4 seconds of the piano when he's sitting at his desk, so it kind of shows you him as a pianist in the bar, and you hear him literally clink like 3 or 4 seconds of the opening song, and then you don't hear it. Then it doesn't turn up for the rest of the album. So it's a shame, really. I guess it's a montage that's just there to kind of, fly it out, but yeah, it's a bit of a shame.
Because when the circus starts playing, it actually fits the almost ethereal Natasha Kinski very well. Like Lena does this sort of cute little dance, and she does like a leading into a tightrope walk, which does earn the title of Circus Girl, and it does give that sort of otherworldly, distant quality to her, which if Coppola had done anything with the character, really could have worked quite well. Like she just had this sort of like humble simplicity to it that also features in the song. But then when you're watching the scene, you're just like screaming, "Why do I care? What is happening?" And who lit this movie?
Yeah, no, it's terrible. I mean, it looks like you've got a lamp just constantly pointed at the characters. Like they have no depth of feel to them at all. They have no subtlety. It's just
this whole movie was made by yes men.
Mm-hmm. Oh, entirely, yeah, entirely. Well, the problem is the studio was Coppola's studio, so it's kind of like there is no kind of authority coming. I mean, maybe there was. I don't know about the actual staff of Zoetrope, but I imagine coming off the back of such movies, it was whatever Mr. Francis Ford wants, he gets, kind of thing.
Like, studios kind of get a bad rap. Like whenever there's like a film criticism, someone will say, "Oh, it's clearly like the studio was sticking in their nose." But these are like movie making is a business, and like Coppola kind of forgets that.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
totally.
Because like he said, I wanted to make a small movie after Apocalypse Now. Oh, okay, so you're gonna do like a $2 million budget thing. Cool. Oh no, wait, hang on. You spent $25 million on a movie that looks like it cost like if they'd have done it on location, would have cost them maybe less than that $2 million.
Yeah. I just briefly on Circus Girl as well, which I really enjoy. I think both sides of this instrumental montage, from the demonic opening of the tango into Circus Girl. Like Circus Girl does have that Shore Leave feel to me. It does have that almost Alice Blood Money feel to me as well. It's like a sea shanty kind of rumble. There's a harmonica wheeze in the background. It feels music you'd hear far off as you're approaching a pier on a dock or something. There's a sense of returning. There's an all-encompassing sound as the brass instruments just gather around you with this constant hum of goodness. Like, they're so elegant together. Like, there's a real sense of craft here that I find really satisfying. Like, I think this is kind of One from the Heart is something that even like diehard Tom Waits ones might not know back to front, but you should definitely know this instrumental montage. It's some of Tom's best instrumental work. It's as good as Night on Earth.
Time or...
Yeah. You could definitely do that on there, but it's interesting actually because there's another good quote from Tom about Francis Ford Coppola, kind of what he wanted from this, basically, what he wanted from his own writing. And he says, quote, in terms of the songs that he wrote for One from the Heart, quote, "I strung them together like an overture for a musical. What he wanted, Francis Ford Coppola, was a glass of music that you could add to or take away from. Then we got together and made a scratch tape where we spotted the story for music. I was reworking themes, so I got about 175 musical cues to be extracted from the score. It ain't fun doing that." And I think this instrumental montage, you can feel Tom just letting loose here, and he can, this is what Swordfish becomes. You know what I mean? This is the most clear representation of Tom's next move, is the instrumental montage. And it's fantastic. It comes just at the right point in the album. It's the 8th track on a 15-track album, bang in the middle. Shot in the arm, as I always say. Really satisfying. I love this song. Or these songs, should I say.
I like the next song as well.
Oh, God, I love the next song, yeah. You Can't Unring a Bell is awesome, Sam. Talk to me about it.
I'm writing an article for was it 3 weeks or a month away, and it's going to be about the best live performances that are essentially not on Big Time, because Big Time is like, I'm not a big fan of live albums. I haven't listened to many, but Big Time is, in my opinion, the best one ever.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
And this song is basically a runoff of a live a method in which Tom would perform passes and a G string alone on stage with the exact same drum, that big single like skin drum. and he would play it almost the exact same speed. So I'm not sure whether he's drawing from old ideas that never made it onto albums. It's a very sinister song. This is it is one of those again. You have to click your fingers to it. It's perfect in that way. It's used almost in the film as Coppola's kind of hint to a noir detective sleuth mode. When he's spying on Franny while she's having an affair, even if they're kind of broken up.
Yes, I mean the what we were talking about before, when he takes a naked body out of the car against her. This song plays just before that, and when he's on the roof and he kind of gets like comedically electrocuted, it's
and then he falls through the window. It's like, oh, come on, Coppola.
Yeah. No, it's not.
Does he know he directed The Godfather? You know what I mean?
I don't know. I don't know if he does at this point. But this is a really, really interesting tune, actually. I mean, it's almost a spoken word piece. I mean, obviously there is singing in it, but it's just like the percussion on this is fucking fantastic. Like, there's kind of a slouchy bass, but there's just these really far off drums, like that kind of continue throughout the song and just never stop. They're almost monotonous at the end, not in an annoying way, but in the pure sense of what monotone monotony is, that repetition that really gets you. But what I found more interesting was the idea. This has been a great album of song titles, and You Can't Unring a Bell is a great song title as well. It reminded me a lot of a cone. I don't know if you know that expression.
No.
You probably, I mean, you'll become so basically a cone, as in Koan, and basically it's a Zen thing. It's a Zen philosophical practice, a verbal thing. So it's basically a story, dialogue, question, or statement which is used in Zen practice to provoke the great doubt and test the student's progression in Zen practice. So, for instance, what is the sound of one hand clapping? Or does a tree make a sound when it falls in the woods? That's what a cone is. A cone is kind of this paradoxical thing that is meant to force you to cleanse your thoughts and think higher. So you can't unring a bell. It's not quite on that level, but you know what I'm getting at. It's kind of that same idea of like, you know, once something has happened, it is irrevocable, and that's really fun, you know. But the drums dominate this track. They're engrossing. They're tolling.
They're I don't want to keep saying because we've been talking about swordfish trombones from Closing Time, but again there are shades of Trouble's Braids here. Apparently, a lot of the sounds heard were generated from Tom banging around a bunch of tire irons as well.
Oh, right.
Bones Howard describes this as the start of what he would call Tom's real junkyard sound.
Yes.
Inspired by artists who we'll get onto next on the next episode. People like the composer Frank Partch, who made his own instruments, and of course the eponymous Captain Beefheart.
Was it Charles Partch? Sorry.
Is it? I've got Frank in my notes. It might be Mr. Partch.
Mr. Partch. Okay, no worries.
And like lyrically,
Harry Partch. We were both wrong.
Oh
we were both wrong. Okay, there we are. And the whole song, like, the bass sometimes gets a good rhythm, and then sometimes it starts falling, and then it stops, and it starts, and it slurries, and it hurries, and it bounces, and this is like, if you think about this song and what it's trying to do in the movie, it doesn't really make sense, because this song feels a lot more existential and interesting than what it's actually used for in the movie. Is just to kind of make the character feel a little bit of doubt before he realizes his girlfriend cheated on him, but he's cheated on her years before, as we established, and even cheated on her just then. So it doesn't really. But I like Tom in this. I like one of the things you can't really accuse Tom Waits as ever being is mocking. He always seems to get on the level with whatever character, whatever emotion he's dealing with, and always might not necessarily look to the positive, but always is realistic. And, you know, but here he's genuinely just sort of, you know, goading the listener towards the end. So this is the final stanza. You can't unring a bell, Junior. And then this kind of like, this is whispered. He goes like, it hurts, don't it? Take it like a man. Get it through your head. Suffer. And then he starts to laugh. And it's just like, there's a little bit of exhalation as the bass expires out. This is dark. This is Bone Machine territory in terms of its, you know, the nihilism that's exhibited. I love You Can't Ring a Bell. It's such a surprise track, isn't it, really? Like, you just would not think that something like this would both slip through Coppola's eyes and be part of One from the Heart, which is such a glitzy, hollow piece of crap, basically.
I really feel like Coppola was going, like, he was more focused on the tone of this song. Like the tone fits a lot better than the lyrics, but yeah, it's just misappropriated in this movie.
And as we're nearing the end now, and we're getting onto the final stretch, I thought I'd just quickly quote from a Roger Ebert review, the famous film critic, who weirdly, by the way, just on a quick aside, with my girlfriend, a few months ago, we watched half of Life Itself, the film about him.
Yes.
Really uninteresting.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be far more about his music, his film criticism, and his style and his influences, but it was literally about his life and how he was a bit of a heavy drinker. And obviously, he had a terrible affliction later in life of his cancer and stuff like that, and that is awful. And those segments are quite interesting and really tough to watch and emotionally.
Was it bone cancer in his jaw or something like that?
Something like that, something along those lines. Yeah, but
if someone could write into Tom
yeah,
Waits Podcast at gmail.com.
yeah, please. But so yeah, I think he hits the nail on the head really in reference to the most important thing about films, really, other than story, I guess, character. And he says, quote, "I've neglected, in fact, to name the actors of One from the Heart or describe the characters they play. That's not so much an oversight in a review of a film like this. The two main characters, played by Terry Garr and Frederick Forrest, inhabit a Las Vegas of disappointment, ennui, and glittering lights. For a brief time, they break out of their humdrum lives and meet new lovers, Raul Julia and Natasha Kinski, who tease them with dreams and fancies. The underlying story notion, I suppose, is that ordinary little people have a great night on the town, but the night and the town in Coppola's production so overwhelm them that they remain ordinary little people throughout." And it's spot on, really. These characters never feel larger than life. They never feel interesting. And You Can't Unring a Bell is a song that deserves a better film, and it doesn't get it with this.
It's a shame.
But we go on to This One's from the Heart.
A title track that again is spelt correctly,
Yeah.
which is always nice to see.
That is good.
This song accompanies not only the licking of Hank's wounds after he fails back to win back Franny, but as he drives back from the airport in the rain.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a melodramatic song in a melodramatic part of the movie, and in that sense, it's almost a perfect tandem. But it's still a bit forced and cliche.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The contrast between the duet voices is probably shines here more than any of the other songs. Like, they both have that sort of all-night bar weariness, and I really could, like, this song does visually fit the film. Like, don't get me wrong, we know now that Tom has been writing cinematic music since day one.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to see them sing this in the movie. Like, there could have been a scene where two of the characters were just at a club and Gail's lying on the piano and Tom's plinking away. That would have been really nice, because this is the only song that with the two of them that I like. Oh, I'm so glad that they were together, because this does 9 out of 10 work for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that the fact that this is a title track puts a bit of pressure on it, and I don't think it lives up to the fact that this is a title song of the album, and then this is, what the film's named after. But regardless of its kind of quite awful schmaltzy core, I think there's lots of good stuff in here. The long stretches of xylophone and oppressive strings coming down and swooping is really good. But the way they both deliver the "Oh baby, this one's from the heart," I love that delivery. I think the melody's really strong, and it almost makes me wish that melody of "This One's from the Heart" was like a coda in the film. There was like a recurring motif, because I really enjoy the way they sing that, and I think they both sing it differently, and they both sing it well, and there's a sense of earnest longing, and there's a sense of truth in what they're doing, and this level of emotional complexity is never, ever, even suggested in the film. Like, the film is so base, and this is so full of such depth, and it's really realised, it's really enjoyable, but there's a lot of unforgivable lyrics in here that just don't even make sense. The quote, "The worm is climbing the avocado tree, rubbing its back against the wall." Oh, and then there's the awful, "I pour myself a double sympathy."
No, to me, the line, "It's got to be love, I never felt this way before," is possibly the least Tom Waitsy line ever written. Yeah. Like, that's such a generic, just schmaltzy, lovey thing.
Yeah, and just the horn work is lovely, but there's like there's an outro of like a minute on this song as well. It really doesn't know where to go, and it does have that kind of meandering feel. Like, the first couple of seconds let you know that it's kind of got that sort of draggy, sort of ponderous kind of thing to it. But
you do feel that this track does come from the heart, though.
Yeah. Like I was saying, the delivery of the chorus, or at least, the chorus is just one line in this, and the chorus is the final line of each stanza as they kind of trade and stuff. And Crystal's probably at her best here, I have to say. I think she does a good job, but too long, again, similar to Broken Bicycles and other stuff like that, and just doesn't tick any boxes for me. Doesn't really do much more than it's slated to do.
It's inoffensive, isn't it?
It is.
Take me home, Tom.
Take Me Home. This is nice because this is kind of more of a Disney track. This is a nice...
Well, Coppola said the whole movie was going to be a grown-up Disney film, essentially, so it's interesting you should say that.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And so yeah, this is a very brief Crystal song, you know, a sort of short number that's maybe needed towards the end, a quite light song. It's just silly boy. I like the way she pulls it out. Like, there is a kind of folky element to this one. This feels quite an ancient kind of melody. It's comprehensible if you were to kind of deal with the musical on a level of just kind of trying to follow the story. I said before, this will probably make sense in the song as well, you know, basically just kind of, you've been a silly guy, I've been a silly girl, let's fall back in love, you know, stay with me, that kind
Ross
of thing.
and Rachel,
yeah, it's just I mean, there's not much really to say on this one. It's quite forgettable.
Oddly enough though,
Okay.
there is the most sort of background info on this song, really.
Okay.
Tom says, I tried to sing it and it sounded really sloppy, so he gave it to Gail instead. And whenever I hear Gail, I always think of the character from the English soap opera Coronation Street.
Right, yeah, Gail Platt.
But basically, J.S. Jacobs writes that the last session with Waits and Gale had was, in Howe's estimation, the most incredible one of all. Yet the perfect session came to a close to being scuttled. Basically, while in LA, Crystal learned that her mother had become gravely ill. So Howe called to say that, like, he really wanted to use her really vulnerable sound.
Oh shit!
And like he said, like, I figured if I get her in the studio, I might really get something. She came into the studio, and she and Tom sang their duets together that day. They sat at the piano together and sang those duets. It's really wonderful. A really wonderful day in the studio. Towards the final day of shooting, though, basically Francis just said, everything's so sad, we need something with hope in it. And that's when Take Me Home came about. The musical idea came early on, but the words were some of the last ones he wrote. And then he sat down and played it 3 or 4 times to her, and then she cut it, and they pretty much did it that day. So
Yeah.
it's nice to see the sort of winging it on the fly nature that is in all movie making. And the phrase "winging it" obviously is doing the round on the internet at the moment, as the third Hobbit film has come out, and we realised that Jackson was winging it.
Yeah. It's funny you say that the lyrics are some of the last that he wrote, because they are really basic. Like, if you just read them on the page, it's like maybe the only line that's maybe like a sort of interesting line: "All the world's not round without you," which I'm not quite sure what that means, but it's fine. But yeah, it's interesting.
This song is more emotional without the footage. It's better just on its own.
But it's kind of I mean, yeah, it's not bad. It's not a bad little snatch. But I really do like the next song, Presence, which is
the shortest track, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very simple. A little glorious little lullaby. It begins as like a solemn snatch of chords, and then goes into this great set of like interweaving, twinkly arpeggios. Doesn't outstay its welcome. The song is literally used. I mean, even though it's one of the final tracks on this album, the song is used very early on when Hank and Franny are exchanging presents, basically, and that's kind of the first thing that they fall out. She's basically bought him a holiday to Bora Bora for the two of them. He's bought, I think there's some nice drama there, like, and that could be in a better film, that could be good, but basically they've been together 5 years, never married, you know. She stays around his house all the time, and for their anniversary he's used their savings to buy the house, and she doesn't really like the house they have, so they kind of, you know, so this song is played when there's something, this is a very minor point, but I can't really get rid of it. There's a moment, and if you're listening to the podcast now and you have access to get to the song, get to the point in the song of Presence. Presence as a song itself is only under a minute long. Get to the point in the song at the 36-second mark. There's a melody, and it goes da 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 da, and it sounds so much like old Shoes and Picture postcards from Closing Time. It really does.
Wow.
The bridge to chorus sounds very similar. I mean, and I'm not saying Tom in any way self-plagiarizing. It's a snatch of notes that could just, you know, is most likely, well, probably is coincidental to that. But it's just fun. It's kind of similar when we said that I Wish I Was in New Orleans feels a bit like Georgia Lee. Like you see those kind of, you know, those kind of the Venn diagram, the overlap. And but yeah, I like Presence. What do you think of Presence?
I think this one definitely falls into score than a regular Waits instrumental.
Okay.
It's got like you say, that sort of classic Twinkle Twinkle Little Star inconsequential nature to it. I do like that. He's experimenting with more instruments. You know, obviously Zoetrope Studios is hemorrhaging money and just throwing any instrument he wants. and obviously he will master the xylophone for the title track of the next album. But yeah, it's quite a nice, appropriate song, just as we are now officially approaching Christmas as of today.
Yes, December 1st, yes.
Have you received any cards of a hooker?
I haven't, unfortunately,
No,
no. Not yet, but there's
Any
still time.
prostitutes listening to the podcast, we would really appreciate some posts.
Please get in touch. Only via email, though, not physically. That would be good. So, Candy Apple Red, which we mentioned prior as a song that Tom had given to Francis, believing it was like a perfect song. It's an okay song, Tom. You know, it's not bad. It's nice to see Gentle Piano Man back. Sort of again, Louis Armstrong influence here. Very much on this one, the trumpet. You know, kind of drifting kind of melody. The horn kind of concludes most of the points that Tom's saying. Kind of he'll sing and then it will come up. I wouldn't say there's much of a core to this Candy Apple.
It's just plinky plonk. It's just there.
Sorry, I just realised in my notes I actually have the direct quote. So Bob Alcivar recalled, quote, "The Coppola mindset was always to do one more. Tom got a little upset once in a while. I remember him saying, well, this is a perfect song, Candy Apple Red. And Francis said, try another one. Tom would be irritated by the constant changes," which, I mean, of course, you know.
Well, Candy Apple Red is actually a line used in the song Downtown from the last album.
Is that right?
Yeah. And it also echoes the big candy apple mountain, or whatever it's called, that he will go on to sing in Ironweed, which is a film that we reviewed in our third episode, the first of the Real Gone segments. I don't think we'd named it by that point.
It wasn't named back then, but yeah, do check it out as well. Ironweed, in recollection, was actually a pretty good movie.
It was. Meryl Streep owns that movie.
Jack Nicholson's great in it as well. Like, they're all really good in it. Oh god, yeah. But Ironweed's actually really sad. I'm just thinking of when he goes back for Thanksgiving. There's some really good scenes in that movie.
I love one of the best bits is when like he sees that like crazy topless woman when he's like a young kid.
Oh yeah,
it's a real surreal image.
Yeah, and he kills that guy as well. Okay, sorry, we'll start talking about Ironweed, but
yeah,
check out Ironweed though if you haven't seen it. Jack Nicholson, Meryl Streep, Tom Waits. Tom Waits is like not a main character, but he's in it quite a bit.
Like I mean, in terms of like if he had to do a poster with top billing, he would be number 3 or 4, wouldn't he?
He'd be for number 3, yeah, definitely.
But back to Candy Apple Red. Yeah. I do love the line, "I'm gonna drink like a son of a bitch," because to me this is like the last openly alcoholic line Waits will give for a while. Obviously, because I reckon he may have written this just before he met Kathleen, who did kind of clean up his act.
Yeah,
but. It's almost too short to talk about.
Yeah, I'm looking at the lyrics now, and like it's literally
4 lines, 8 lines,
9 lines. Yeah, so it's a very brief song, and obviously we've gone from "Take Me Home," which has been a brief little Krista number, under a minute present, into Candy Apple Red. So the final song, or is this your final song? This is what I've got down.
Yeah, because it's just interesting to point out that Candy Apple Red and Once Upon a Time / Empty Pockets are not on the vinyl.
No,
you can only get them on Spotify or on the CD. Basically, the song was originally called Purple Avenue.
Yeah,
and Once Upon a Town, we have like nice, a little bit of a reprise from the opening montage. But you know, like a day in the life, when it's 2 songs that were half written, and they put them together, and it creates something that is significantly better than the sum of its parts.
Yes,
this is not that.
No,
this is not even I've Got a Feeling, which is the lesser version of A Day in the Life. But yeah, it just feels 2 songs bookmarked, smushed at each other's ends.
Yeah.
Weirdly though, Waits actually tried to shop this song around to Frank Sinatra, but nothing ever really came of it.
Oh.
And when a journalist asked Waits if Sinatra had influenced him, which is one of the stupidest, almost rhetorical questions I've ever heard, Tom simply replied that they have the same tailor, which made me chuckle.
Yeah. It's kind of, some of this we've touched upon in the first song, really, because this is like, as with most musicals, kind of the final song is kind of echoing the intro. I really like the melody when he's like, somehow always thinking of the last time I fell down. It's nice. The chords are really nice.
The whole album feels quite Christmassy, doesn't it?
It does, actually. Yeah, it does have a certain Yuletide glaze to it. But yeah, this is the album.
More like a Yule log.
Yule log, yeah. The album's,
it's there.
Peter's out at this point, and
like the movie does.
Like the movie, yeah. I think we should maybe get into talking about the film a bit more now, maybe.
Well,
briefly.
Before we get into the film, we have
sorry.
to do the tradition, least favourite song and favourite song of
the album. Of course,
this
is a down in the hole tradition, as we've all been doing. So, yeah, we'll start with least favourite song, Sam.
Now, do you want me to go off the album proper or the full CD reissue? Because it changes.
Right. Well, give me both.
Well, I'm either going to give it to Once Upon a Town, Empty Pockets.
Yeah.
Just because I've got nothing to say about it.
Mm-hmm,
It is just like, it's almost worse to get no response from a song.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if a song angers me, at least I can talk about it on the podcast for 20 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if we're just going to do the original album, I'd say one of the big problems with this album is that I don't particularly like any of the songs that aren't my favourites, like that we'll get onto in a sec, but a lot of the middling ones are kind of all the same quality. So I'm just going to almost arbitrarily picking up after you.
Okay. Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And your my worst. I'm just looking at the list now. Probably old boyfriends. I just think it's too long of a track. And although it does get a good playing in the film, actually, that song gets played quite long, and it does probably work quite well. And then
it is hard to divorce the film from the song.
It is, and we appreciate that most people listening to this episode will not have seen One from the Heart, and probably will never see One from the Heart. So hopefully we've done a good job of getting them doing most of the music more. But yeah, and then my favourite. This is hard. There's quite a few actually. I have to say, it has a lot of bad tracks. It also has a lot of shining moments. Probably going to go with the instrumental montage. I love both parts.
I thought you would.
Yeah. I am kind of a sucker for instrumentals as a whole, but I do love that. And yourself?
I'm gonna go with Little Boy Blue.
Wow, you can't unring a bell. Isn't getting a top billing. I'm surprised.
See, I already picked Little Boy Blue almost in anticipation of you picking. You can't unring a bell. But it's official. We can't change it now, it will go on the Spotify playlist, the Tom Waits podcast playlist that you can find it on Spotify. Yep. It's a public playlist, and if you don't want to have to listen to the whole thing, eventually once we've got onto Bad as Me 30 years later, we will just have essentially the ultimate intro to Tom Waits, really.
Yeah, in our eyes, yeah.
Let's just before we close off, let's talk about the film a little bit more. So you're kind of just like assaulted by like this very bland storytelling. Like it's so there's nothing refined about it. No. Like the actors look confused in some scenes. You don't even know what's going on. Like your movie's bad when the most famous actor in it is Harry Dean Stanton.
Yeah, and it's a classic and Harry Dean Stanton on the credits. Like he's the kind of additional.
He's everyone's second favourite. Oh, I know that guy. Just after the old geezer from The Green Mile and I, Robot.
Yes.
The movie looks fake, but there are some quite good visuals. Like there's a lot of playing with double overlay exposure. Mm-hmm. We see both characters framed in the scene in separate locations quite a lot. Yeah. There's a lot of noirish saxophone and some great montage. Mm-hmm. And then and I was like, oh, holy shit, is that Tom Waits? Like he appears literally for 5 seconds playing a trumpet.
Yeah, I'll grab a screen grab and put that on the Twitter.
And it really reminded me of those ghost jump scare videos that are all over the internet. Like it did shock me in that way. Mm-hmm. Franny also looks very distractingly like a girl who went to my uni.
Right. Okay. So that's helpful.
But fuck me though, how many times can one director ask an actress to undress in one movie?
She does get naked a lot, yeah. It's weird. And often not even erotically, like she'll just be in the shower and be coming out the shower and it's like, do we even need to see this? This has no import on the story.
And her underwear's really weird. Let's just get that out of the way.
Right, okay.
The dance sequence around 50 minutes in is a real highlight in the film.
Yeah, awesome. Really good. So many people on stage.
And the way they jump out of the travel agency, oh wow, Coppola set something up and paid it off in this movie. And then it turns into this great pastiche of Grease, Saturday Night Fever, Singing in the Rain. And the film's like, oh my god, it's going to come together for the last act.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of those movies that you kind of have to sit through and then it finds its feet. And then it goes straight into Little Boy Blue. And it just doesn't.
Yeah, I agree. There's some really cool stuff on here. The main Las Vegas Strip, where most of the film's set, there's some cool moments. Like there's a really good moment when the camera's just kind of quite far out, watching the crowd go by, and it zooms in, and it keeps zooming in. It's one shot, and then eventually we're with Franny in the front of the travel agents, and it's just this absolutely pure moment as we go from all the way back to the really close up, and like the camera quality. I don't know if you found this, like it looks brilliant, doesn't it? Like visually, it's so sharp for a film from the early '80s. Like I know there was quality back then, and this is Coppola and stuff like that, but even compared to films today, like the camera looks just as good. The characters, the attention to detail is fantastic, and there's lots of times in the movie. I mean, again, I know you're not a big fan of the sets, but I like when we're in people's apartments, and then outside you can see the Vegas Strip, obviously false with the big neon and stuff, but it adds a nice edge.
There's a great shot when Hank and Franny are arguing, and she's about to get in her car. And you can see a woman in next door just kind of looking out through the window, and she's never seen again, and the camera isn't drawn to her at all. And it's like, oh, Coppola, you're so good, but there's like, you shouldn't write this thing. You shouldn't have written it.
I remember that moment. Yeah, that happens quite early on. That is a good moment.
Also, Hank wins over Franny by singing "You Are My Sunshine." Which leads me into my generic Simpsons reference, which is the song that Marge sings Lisa while she's at military school in The Secret War of Lisa Simpson. Marge is one of the most grating voices in media history, and even she sounds a lot better than Hank in this movie. And I know that's the point because he can't sing, but like a guy singing to you is going to make you leave Ray, like this really nice guy. He's big and muscly, like he's got way more money than Hank. He's better looking. Like I don't
talented pianist.
Yeah, I don't know what brings her back to him. Like he keeps his woman and stuff.
Yeah, there's literally no logic at all. And there's quite like one of the funny things that I liked as well was when he goes to the apartment to pull her. I mean, we keep coming back to this scene, but it's fucking awful when he's dragging this poor naked woman who's just had sex with Ray.
And there are racist Japanese tourists like clicking their photos as well. It's like, but we didn't need that either.
There's quite a good moment when like Ray's kind of defending his woman when he goes and her down. He's like, "Don't make me use this," and like he has a pair of nunchucks, and like he just kind of starts to like whirl him about a bit. And
Ray has genuine character to him.
Ray's good, isn't it? Yeah.
But there's a lot of undynamic domestic bickering. Like Hank and Franny, they even argue sitting slouched. That's the whole movie. And then with Leela and Ray, they are edited out more obviously than Johnny Knoxville in Men in Black 2. They just disappear from the movie entirely. Like, who is this film aimed at? It fails as a musical, it fails as a romance, and it fails as a drama, and even just as like a big brash like Las Vegas spectacle. It is the jack of no trades.
It's a curioso. It's something that us Tom Waits fans have to endure if we're going on the pilgrimage of listening to everything he's ever put out. And his work is good for the most part. I mean, he's not breaking the mold here, but he is being asked to make something to order, and the instructions he's been given are very hard. And I can't, the fact that he even got this out with 15 songs on it, Tom, and some of them are actually quite good, and they're actually quite artistic and worthwhile, and even 30 years later, enjoyable piece of music is very admirable.
And to top things off, to annoy me, guess how many special features are on the DVD for One from the Heart that I had to pay £15 for?
I don't know. I'm guessing like what documentary, single documentary.
There is literally play, movie, and scene selection.
Really?
Yeah, like
there must be another DVD then, because there are special features.
Yeah, there are loads of I can't bring myself to buy a Blu-ray of this movie.
It looked good though, to be fair.
No. The HD would make the backgrounds look even worse.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe you're right actually. But I mean, like just the actual camera quality.
Yes.
And the way it captures it, and like a lot of these characters are quite seedy and Vegas-y kind of early 80s types, and it just brings out their kind of nefariousness even more. So that's One from the Heart. We've been
Would you recommend it?
No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. We've been speaking about it for 2 hours now, and I think I'm kind of glad I'm done with it. There are songs that I like on it, but I would not recommend it to anyone, even a Coppola fan, even someone going through all the Coppola films. I'd just be like, watch Tucker, watch that Jeff Bridges one instead.
It's a great film when you know the context.
Yes, exactly. If you were going to this film completely blind, you don't know who Tom Waits is, you don't know about Zoetrope, then I imagine it'd be even worse, because it's interesting as an artifact for us as fans, but if you're just going to watch a Vegas musical, it's, oh God, you're going to be disappointed.
Right. You sent me a message a couple of weeks ago. You wanted to add a little last feature to the end of the Marvel Phase 1 of Tom Waits.
the TWU, yeah. Basically, as I said at the start of the podcast, we are going now over the Rubicon, as it were. We're crossing the Rubicon into Tom's Swordfish onward period. This is where he becomes a completely different artist, still retaining many senses of who he is, which is what makes him so good. You can still hear Closing Time Tom in Real Gone Tom, you know what I mean? Like, he is just obviously one person, ever morphing, but this is his biggest break with the past, Swordfish onwards. So I thought, as a nice kind of addendum, and also because we're not going to do a Real Gone segment as we normally do. We're not going to do a film segment because we've already kind of, reviewed One from the Heart tons. So I thought what we do is we just out of interest, me and Sam have not shared these lists to each other at all. We've both made separately a 10-song playlist of our favourite songs off Tom Waits' first 8 releases. I mean, One from the Heart is included, but I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have put a One from the Heart song on there, and I didn't either. So his first 7 studio releases. So in no particular order.
In no particular order.
Well,
I've put mine in a definite.
Oh, okay.
10 to 1.
Oh, okay. I have not. So what we'll do is, if you just want to start, and anytime we match on a song, well, I'll let you know at any time, but we'll just discuss through. So do you want to start from number 10, Sam?
Number 10, we have Virginia Avenue.
Okay, that's not on my 10. Okay.
This song for me is perfected on the Scene album when Tom performs live on the radio, right. and it really conveys what the song was kind of more meant to be. Like, it's a lot dirtier blues, and like his fingers are a lot more drunk than even his. Yeah. And I love Virginia Avenue, and it sums up why we don't hate Closing Time. No, we don't. I think a lot of people seem to think, a lot of feedback we've got has been like that we trash Closing Time loads, but if you listen back, we actually love a lot of Closing Time. I have 2 songs for Closing Time on my top 10. One of those songs is Rosie. I'm a huge fan of Rosie, and I know it's a very slight song in the Tom Waits canon. I know it's not one of his grand numbers, but there is something about that melody, and there's something just about those very simple root chords and the Rosie. Do you like the bit when he goes really high though? I think it kind of he like warbles that bit a bit. Well. No. He doesn't really have a bridge, and it's classic Tom Waits early albums where he doesn't have the trust to go onto a solo instrument, so it kind of meanders a little bit. But I like Rosie. What else in your top 10? At number 9, we have a joint one because I couldn't pick. They're both off the same album. They're both similar songs. It's either Heart Attack and Vine or Mr. Seagull. Right. I'm not going to allow you to have a joint pick, so I need you to pick one. I'm going to pick Mr. Seagull then. Good because choice. That's the one I picked as my song of the album on that episode. Yeah. It's great. It's great. We'll keep this brief. Just so people get. So yeah, my next in my top 10. So I've had Rosie. I also go with Downtown. Love Downtown. Wasn't really a big fan of this until we went back to Heart Attack and Vine. I'd heard it for years, but there's something about its intro and especially the organ solo by Ronnie Barron that sees it out that I find it irresistible. I think it's fantastic. At number 8, I have Tom Traubert's Blues. See, again, interesting. None of these that I've had so far. Yeah, I don't have that. This is great. Do I need to explain why Tom Trauber's Blues is good or popular? No, I think we've tossed that. So I'm just going from the bottom of my list. So also my second Closing Time track, I put Old 55 on there. I was expecting that. It's a classic. It's an absolute classic of American songwriting that transcends Tom Waits. It's the idea of the road and also him becoming one with the road as well. The song's a little bit more mystical than you would have thought. Do listen back. So Sam, what have you got at number 7? I'm going to keep it lickety-splitty. Yeah. Number 7, we have Burma Shave. Again, don't have that one. Okay. Possibly, in my opinion, one of his best piano tracks, and that real pathos in his voice is so satisfying. As like in On the Nickel, when each time he sings On the Nickel, yes. it gets that weight. Climb up in that buttonhole. And the same thing happens on Burma Shave. Like, it's Burma Shave at the stop, but then towards this Burma Shave. Like, do you ever have to feel like you have to contort your face the same way Tom does?
I've tried. I will go. My next song. This was very hard. I wanted to put several off Heart of Saturday Night, but obviously we only had 10 tracks. We had 7 albums to get through, so I went with Please Call Me Baby. I adore this song. I heard a bootlegged version recently of Tom just on the radio, just him and the piano, and it made me realise how much I love this song. But this is one of those songs where the schmaltzy strings of Tom really work, and I think they bring out a lot of the nuances in this track. I love Please Call Me Baby.
Yeah, it's some of
so Downtown Rosie, Old 55, Please Call Me Baby. These aren't on your top 10.
Nope.
Wow. Okay. Next track.
Number 6, I have a song very close to my heart, which is I Can't Wait to Get Off Work.
Oh, we finally have the same song. Yeah.
Yes.
Love this track. Yeah, love this track.
It's just like have you ever sang it at work?
I've sang it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And like it just makes so much sense, and like when you read in the Hoskins book like about Tom's first jobs and stuff like that, like it's just like, you know where this song came from and you know where it's going, and you know it.
And we've said before, like the way the chords interact with Tom's loping melody is beautiful, and there's a nice anachronism in today's music where he's like sweeping up over by the cigarette machine. Obviously, cigarette machines don't exist anymore, so it kind of places it in a nice world that still would have been around.
Number 5
for me is a song that I've waxed lyrical about lots. Better Off Without a Wife.
For me, I've got Red Shoes by the Drugstore.
I've also got Red Shoes in my top 10. Yeah, I love Red Shoes.
I re-listened to the big time version the other day.
Okay.
Fuck me, it floored me. It's so good.
Yeah.
Like he actually cuts out a lot of the lyrics, and like I love the way that Tom can change the entire tempo of a song and make it a completely different track.
Yeah, it really is unbelievable how he can just repurpose songs. It's wild.
Again, that's a little pre-plug for my best live performances. One, number 4.
Number 4 for me is another Nighthawks track, Emotional Weather Report.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's okay. Yeah, it's all right.
I mean, obviously, with all these songs, we're giving them brief reviews. Please go back. We've reviewed every single one of these songs in depth in our past episodes. You can hear us talking about Emotional Weather Report and Nighthawks episode. But yeah, I just love the extended metaphor, and I think Tom is just. I think the music is also excellent, and the fact that it's such an early song on the album, the vibe is fantastic. But go on, Sam. What is your?
My number 4 is more of a crowd pleaser. It's a Christmas Card from a Hooker.
That's also mine. Yeah. So we have shared quite a few tracks, which is nice.
Could we have avoided both of us putting this one on? Could anyone?
It's too good. It's too complete of a thing. It's just a perfect. It's really easy to get to grips with. It's really moving. It has a nice twist. It's got beautiful piano. It's
as we've said before. It's the only song with a spoiler warning.
Yeah. So are you on number 3 now?
I'm on number 3.
Okay.
Number 3, I've got Diamonds on My Windshield.
Don't have that. Okay.
It's one of his best spoken word performances ever.
Yeah.
And that bit when he says the 8s go east and the 5s go north and the merge and then Hugo on bass, like he mimics that so well, and it does everything for me that Little Boy Blue does.
Yes, they are similar companion pieces. Your second, your Tom Waits. Number 2 of the Asylum is.
Have you given me your number 3?
Because we've matched on a few, it's kind of ruined the ordering, if you know what I mean. So I've got one left, but keep going.
Number 2, I have Romeo is Bleeding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought you might not think that should be placed nearly as high. Maybe that's your Emotional Weather Report for me.
Yeah. I do like Romeo's Bleeding quite a lot.
I can't help but do that at the start of the song. It's so good.
It is. I love the idea that he's been shot, and it's this cool guy who's not letting anyone know that he's been shot, and he bleeds out in the cinema. It's a great story.
Would be a great short film.
It would. It's almost like Rumblefish, isn't it? It's kind of got that sort of the tough guy exterior. He doesn't want anyone to know that you can kind of imagine it in that world. Is our number 1 song gonna be the same song?
Is it Step Right Up?
It is Step Right Up.
Yes!
It's my number 1 song.
I believe I've texted you several times in like the past month whenever I listen to it.
Yeah.
And like it's unbearably good.
It's definitely the best Tom Waits song of this entire period. I mean, for me, it definitely
Would you say top 3 in his career?
Yeah, maybe. It just, said before, huge goofy grin on my face whenever I listen to it. I think it's so funny and so fun, and the rhythm is so daring, as just as
it's
inventive.
Effective, it's defective.
Yeah, it's just Tom's wordplay and punnery is outstanding, and just the fact that he's playing on this snake oil salesman conceit, and the song never gets boring. He's constantly throwing these zingers at you, like it's irresistible. I always say the word irresistible, but it is. I have to subsume to this song whenever it comes on. I just adore it.
And he's never done it like the album version on stage, pretty much ever. Every time he changes it, sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it's slower, and towards the end on the on a version in Paris that I'm going to be talking about in an article, there's like a crowd ecstasy, like they go fucking crazy, and he does that thing that I love that Tom always does, is he uses the a breakdown, so it's just tonight on organ, tonight on drums, and like he introduces the band in his typical way, and like it's perfect with this song. But I'm really glad that we've
that's nice
said our number one is like it. If anyone's listened to the episode 4, it's probably no surprise that we've picked Step Right Up.
We go on about the song for ages. We'll put our individual lists on the Twitter just so people can know. But it's nice that we differ, and obviously there's nothing from Foreign Affairs on my list. But there are songs of Foreign Affairs that I really like. But I think we've gone on about Tom Waits long enough.
This is going to be
our longest episode.
Every week we end with this has been our longest episode yet.
Just to wrap up, thank you so much for listening to Down in the Hole. This is a Tom Waits podcast. I've been Tom Quee.
I've been Sam Wiles, and do not expect the next episode to be any shorter.
No, oh man,
the amount of time and effort we're putting into Swordfish. This hopefully will be our Swordfish trumpet.
Yes. Really. So please get in contact with us. Anything you want, we'd love to hear from you. At Tom Waits Podcast on Twitter. TomWaitsPodcast.wordpress.com is the blog. Check out Sam's recent article, like what the fuck Tom Waits songs or stuff.
What they fuck.
What they fuck. You can also get in contact with us on the email as well. It's TomWaitsPodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you in 2 weeks' time with Swordfish Trombones.
Till then.
I can't believe we're saying that. I can't believe we're actually getting to these crazy albums of his. I mean, it's been so
the Frank
fun
trilogy.
It's mouth-watering. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
You know, I do field trips now. I drive on field trips. I don't know, the children seem to like me as a driver.
Well, that's important. That's key.
I have a lot of room in the car, and I take the turns really fast. They scream.
They find that entertaining?
They love that. The radio's on full blast.
And what kind of places do you go on your field trips?
Well, you know, the most interesting one was that we took all these kids, now I'm talking about 30 kids, to a music store. And I figured, well, okay, I'll drive on that. And then we got there, and I'm kind of standing over by the pianos, and I'm thinking, well, I'm going to get recognized any minute now. And then I decided to move over by the percussion, and found an interesting lighting situation.
You're ready to go.
I'm ready for Aren't You That Guy? Nothing.
Really?
I went over by the guitars, and I waited. Nothing. I was a little let down.
Yeah, I would think so.
A week later, they asked me to drive on another field trip. This time they're going to the dump. It's recycling and all that.
Yeah.
12 guys surrounded my car.
There's nothing wrong with that.